Part 4, Chapter 1, Lost Memories. The sound of Taemin's footsteps echoed through the empty hallway as he fled. He didn't look back. The gun was still warm in his trembling hand, Laura's blood still fresh on the floor, Miho's unconscious body sprawled beside his wife's bleeding form. What had he done? The question chased him down the stairs, out the building, into the Seoul night. But he kept running, kept putting distance between himself and the consequences of his revenge. Laura lay motionless on the cold floor, her elegant blouse now stained dark red, one hand still pressed weakly against the wound below her ribs. Her eyes were closed, her breathing so shallow it was almost imperceptible. Her long, loose dark brown hair spread around her like a halo, her beautiful brown skin growing paler with each passing second. Beside her, Miho was equally still. The bullet from the gun had left him unconscious, blood running from where the weapon had connected with his chest. His jet-black hair was disheveled, his face peaceful in unconsciousness, unaware that his wife was dying inches away from him. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Mrs. Yuchan stepped out into the hallway, Hanul's small hand clasped in hers. The elderly nanny was smiling, chatting cheerfully with the 3-year-old about the wonderful time they'd had at the park. They had an emergency that delayed them at the park, but everything was okay now. They were completely unaware of the nightmare waiting around the corner. And then the butterfly landed right on your nose, didn't it? Mrs. Yuchan was saying in Korean, her voice warm and grandmotherly. You were so still and... She stopped. Her words died in her throat. Her eyes, accustomed to the dim hallway lighting, landed on the scene before her and, for a moment, her brain simply refused to process what she was seeing. Mr. Kang. Mrs. Kang were on the floor with pool of blood. Mommy? Hanul's small voice broke through her frozen shock. Daddy? The little boy's voice, innocent, confused, already edging toward fear, snapped Mrs. Yuchan into action. Hanul, close your eyes, she commanded, her voice shaking but firm. She immediately pulled the child against her body, pressing his face into her side, shielding him from the sight. Close your eyes right now, baby. Don't look. But Mommy and Daddy are. Don't look. With Hanul's face buried against her, Mrs. Yuchan fumbled for her phone with trembling hands. She had to try 3 times before she managed to unlock it, her fingers shaking so badly she kept missing the buttons. Finally, she dialed. 911, what's your emergency? I need, Mrs. Yuchan's voice cracked. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to speak clearly. I need ambulances. 2 people. There's been shooting. There's so much blood. Please, you have to hurry. I think they're dying. She gave the address, answered the dispatcher's questions as best she could while trying to keep Hanul from seeing, from understanding, from being traumatized by the sight of his parents lying motionless on the hallway floor. Are they breathing? The dispatcher asked. Mrs. Yuchan, still holding Hanul against her with one arm, crept closer. She was terrified of what she might find, but she had to know. She knelt beside Miho first, still keeping Hanul's face pressed against her side. She put her shaking fingers against his neck, searching for a pulse. The pulse was really faint. The man is breathing, she reported. But the woman. She moved to Laura, her heart in her throat. Please, she prayed. Please let her be alive. Please. Laura's pulse was there, but it was so weak, so thready, that Mrs. Yuchan almost missed it. And the blood, there was so much blood pooling beneath her, staining her beautiful clothes, spreading across the floor. The woman is breathing too, but barely, Mrs. Yuchan said, her voice breaking. Please hurry. Please, please just hurry. Ambulances are on the way. Stay on the line with me. The next few minutes were the longest of Mrs. Yuchan's life. She knelt there on the floor, one arm wrapped around Hanul keeping his face hidden, her other hand hovering uselessly over Laura and Miho, wanting to help but not knowing how, terrified that touching them might make things worse. Mommy? Hanul whimpered against her side. Is Mommy sleeping? Shoo, baby. Help is coming. I want to see Mommy. No, Hanul. You can't, not right now. But I want Mommy. The little boy's voice rose, panic setting in. He started to struggle against her hold, trying to turn his head. "Mommy! Daddy! Hanul, please! Mommy!" The child's scream echoed through the hallway, desperate and heartbreaking. He was crying now, big heaving sobs, still trying to break free from Mrs. Yuchan's protective embrace. And then, finally, sirens. The paramedics arrived in a controlled rush of efficient movement and medical equipment. Mrs. Yuchan pulled Hanul away, backing up against the wall to give them room to work. She watched through her own tears as they descended on Laura and Minho, checking vitals, starting IVs, moving with practiced urgency that somehow made everything more real and more terrifying. Female, late 20s, gunshot wound to the right lower abdomen, significant blood loss. Male, late 20s, shot at the chest, barely breathing. "We need to move, now. Get them both on gurneys." The hallway became controlled chaos. Gurneys appeared. Laura and Minho were carefully and quickly transferred onto them. For bags were hung. Oxygen masks were placed. "Are you family?" one of the paramedics asked Mrs. Yuchan. I work for them. I'm the nanny. That's their son." She gestured to Hanul, who was clinging to her leg, his small face streaked with tears, his eyes wide with incomprehension and terror. "You'll need to follow us to the hospital. Asen Medical Center. Do you know how to get there?" Yes. And then they were moving. Laura and Minho were rushed toward the elevator, paramedics surrounding them, working on them even as they moved. Hanul broke away from Mrs. Yuchan and ran after them. "Mommy! Daddy! Don't go!" His small legs pumped as fast as they could. "Don't leave me! Mommy!" One of the paramedics, a young woman with kind eyes, caught him gently before he could follow them into the elevator. "We're going to help your mommy and daddy, okay?" she said softly, kneeling to his level. "But you need to stay here with—" "No!" Hanul screamed, tears streaming down his face. "I want mommy. I want daddy. Don't take them. Don't take them." He was sobbing so hard he could barely breathe, his small body shaking with the force of his cries. Mrs. Yuchan gathered him up into her arms, even though he fought against her, his small fists pounding weakly against her shoulders. "Mommy," he wailed, his voice broken and desperate. "Mommy, come back. Please come back. Daddy, wake up. Wake up." The elevator doors closed. Laura and Minho disappeared from view. And Hanul's heartbroken sobs echoed through the empty hallway. Asen Medical Center's emergency room was organized chaos. Mrs. Yuchan sat in the waiting area, Hanul curled up in her lap, still crying, though his sobs had quieted to exhausted whimpers. She rocked him gently, murmuring nonsense comfort words, but her eyes never left the doors where they'd taken Laura and Minho. Emergency surgery. Both of them. That's all she'd been told. Hours crawled by. Hanul eventually cried himself to sleep against Mrs. Yuchan's shoulder, his small face still wet with tears, his breath still hitching with residual sobs even in sleep. Mrs. Yuchan didn't sleep. She just sat there, holding the child, staring at those doors, praying. Please let them both survive. Please. This child has already lost so much. Don't let him lose his parents. Please. It was nearly dawn when a doctor finally emerged. He looked exhausted. His scrubs were stained. His expression was carefully controlled, but Mrs. Yuchan had lived long enough to read the grief hiding beneath the professionalism. Her heart sank. "Mrs. Yuchan?" The doctor approached her, his voice gentle. She nodded, unable to speak, her arms tightening protectively around the sleeping child. "Mr. Kang made it through surgery," the doctor said. "He's stable. The bullet was removed. We were also able to relieve the pressure. He's in a coma right now, but his prognosis is good." Relief flooded through her. "And Mrs. Kang?" The doctor's face changed. "Just slightly." "I'm so sorry," the doctor said quietly. "We did everything we could. The bullet damaged her liver and caused severe internal bleeding. We tried to repair the damage, but she'd lost too much blood by the time she reached us. She went into cardiac arrest on the operating table. We performed CPR for over 30 minutes, but he paused, his professional composure cracking slightly. "I'm so sorry. We couldn't save her. Mrs. Kang passed away at 4:47 a.m. The world tilted. Mrs. Yuchan felt the words hit her like physical blows. Laura was dead. That beautiful, kind young woman who'd treated her like family, who'd smiled at her every morning, who'd trusted her with her precious child, dead. No, Mrs. Yuchan heard herself saying. No, that's not, she can't be. I'm very sorry for your loss. The room spun. Mrs. Yuchan's vision went dark at the edges. Her chest felt tight, like she couldn't breathe, couldn't get air. She was vaguely aware of someone, shadow, maybe catching her as she started to sway, taking Hanol from her arms before she dropped him. Laura was dead. This child's mother was dead. And she would have to be the one to tell him. The thought was so overwhelming, so impossible, that Mrs. Yuchan felt herself slipping, felt consciousness trying to slip away as a mercy. But she couldn't. She couldn't leave Hanol. Not now. Not when he needed her the most. She forced herself to breathe. Forced herself to stay conscious and forced herself to think. Minho would wake up to find his wife dead. Hanol would wake up to find his mother gone forever. And somehow, they would all have to find a way to survive this. I need to see her, Mrs. Yuchan whispered. Please. I need to see Mrs. Kang. The doctor nodded. Of course. This way. The doctor took Hanol, the child still mercifully asleep, while Mrs. Yuchan followed him down the hallway on legs that barely held her. They led her to a small, quiet room. And there, on a hospital bed, covered with a white sheet up to her shoulders, was Laura. She looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. Her beautiful brown skin had lost some of its warm glow, taking on the waxy pallor of death, but her face was serene. Her long dark hair had been brushed back from her face. Someone had cleaned the blood away. She looked young. Too young to be dead. Mrs. Yuchan approached the bed slowly, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch Laura's hand. It was already cold. I'm sorry, Mrs. Yuchan whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. But I promise I'll take care of Hanol. I'll take care of your baby. I won't let him forget you. I won't let him forget how much you loved him. She stood there for a long time, just holding Laura's cold hand, crying for the vibrant young woman who should have had decades of life ahead of her, for the little boy who would grow up without his mother, for the husband who would wake to find his world shattered. Finally, she pressed a kiss to Laura's forehead. Rest now, she whispered. You're safe now. No more pain. No more fear. Just rest. When she returned to the waiting room, she met a nurse who the doctor must have given Hanol to, in order to attend to other matter. Mrs. Yuchan looked at Hanol, still sleeping in the nurse's arms, his small face peaceful in sleep, unaware that his entire world had just ended. Thank you, she said with a broken voice. You're welcome and sorry for your loss. Mrs. Yuchan nodded at her weakly and took Hanol gently from her arms. How long until Mr. Kang wakes? Mrs. Yuchan asked. The doctor said it's not certain when he would wake up. She had to maintain this lie for Hanol's sake. She would have to look Hanol in the face and pretend his mother was coming back when she knew. Mrs. Yuchan closed her eyes against a fresh wave of grief. We'll manage, she whispered. Somehow. The days that followed were a blur of grief and pretense. Mrs. Yuchan took Hanol home to the apartment, the same apartment where his parents had been shot, though she made sure he never saw the hallway. She packed up some of his things and took him to Minho's villa instead, somewhere without those terrible memories. Hanol kept asking for his mother. Mommy traveled, remember? Mrs. Yuchan would say, forcing herself to smile even as her heart broke. She'll be back soon. When is soon? Soon, baby. Very soon. Can I call Mommy? Her phone isn't working right now. But she knows you miss her. She misses you too. Every lie felt like a betrayal. But what else could she do? At the hospital, Minho remained in a coma. They monitored for signs of improvement. Laura's body was moved to a private morgue. Plans for a funeral were put on hold until Minho could wake and make decisions. Mrs. Yuchan visited the hospital every day, sitting beside Minho's bed, updating him on things even though he couldn't hear her. Hanol is okay, she would tell his unconscious form. He misses you both terribly, but he's okay. He's staying strong. And Laura, her voice would break. Laura would be so proud of how brave he's being. She never said the words out loud. Never said Laura is dead in that hospital room. As if saying it might make him hear and wouldn't wake up. As if silence could somehow keep the terrible truth at bay. After almost a month, the doctors saw improvement on the vitals. He was gradually coming out of danger. The bullet didn't damage any vital point, just one of his ribs. Mrs. Yuchan sat beside his bed, holding his hand, as they gave him medication. While in coma, Miho had a dream, fog rolling in from the sea. He was standing in their bedroom, the one in the apartment, not the villa. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, warm and golden. Laura was there. She stood beside the bed, packing a suitcase. Her long dark hair fell in soft waves down her back, and she was wearing one of her favorite dresses, the blue one that made her brown skin glow. "Laura," Miho heard himself say. His voice sounded strange. "What are you doing?" She didn't look up, just kept folding clothes and placing them carefully in the suitcase. "I'm leaving," she said simply. "Leaving?" Panic seized his chest. No, you can't leave. "Laura, whatever's wrong, we can fix it." "I'll fix it. Please don't go." "I have to go, Miho." Finally, she looked up at him, and her dark eyes were sad. So impossibly sad. "I'm sorry, but I have to leave you now." "No." He tried to move toward her, but his feet wouldn't work. He was frozen in place, forced to watch as she closed the suitcase and as she lifted it off the bed. "Laura, please. I love you. Don't do this. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Just please don't leave." "It's not your fault," she said gently. "This isn't about you. It's time for me to go." "Where? Where are you going?" She smiled then, but it was the saddest smile he'd ever seen. "Somewhere you can't follow." "Laura." The wind came from nowhere. One moment the room was still, and the next, a whirlwind erupted around Laura. It swirled with impossible force, lifting her hair, whipping her dress, and pulling at her body. "Laura!" Miho screamed, trying to move, trying to reach her, but still he couldn't move. "Laura!" She looked at him one last time, her eyes full of love and sorrow. "Take care of our son," she said, and then the whirlwind swallowed her whole, then she vanished. "Laura!" Miho jerked awake with a gasp, his heart hammering against his ribs, sweat soaking his hospital gown. The dream's terror clung to him like cobwebs, making it hard to breathe and hard to think. Where was he? What? A hospital room. He was in a hospital room. "Why? Mr. Kang." A woman's voice, relieved and worried at once. "Oh, thank God. You're awake. Don't try to move, I'll get the doctor." The woman, he didn't recognize her, but she seemed to know him, rushed out of the room. Miho's mind was foggy and sluggish. Everything felt wrong. His head ached. His body felt heavy and weak. And that dream. Laura. The dream of Laura leaving. His chest tightened with inexplicable panic. A doctor entered, professional and efficient, with the woman following close behind. "Mr. Kang, can you hear me? I'm Dr. Taemin. You've been in a coma. Can you tell me your name?" "Kang Minho," he answered, his voice rough from disuse. "What happened to me?" "You were shot. But you're going to be fine. You're out of danger now." Out of danger. The words should have been comforting, but all Miho could think about was that dream. Laura disappearing and leaving him. His eyes swept the room frantically, searching. "Where's Laura?" he demanded. "Where's my wife?" The doctor and the woman exchanged a glance. Something passed between them, some silent communication that made Miho's stomach drop. "Where is Laura?" he repeated, his voice rising despite his weakness. "Where is my wife? Is she?" He couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't say the word. "Mr. Kang, you need to focus on your own recovery first," the doctor started. "Tell me where Laura is." Miho tried to sit up, but pain lanced through his chest region, and the woman, who was she, gently pressed him back down. "Please, Mr. Kang. You mustn't agitate yourself. You've been through major trauma." "I don't care about that." "Where is Laura?" The woman, the one he didn't know, bit her lip. Tears welled in her eyes. And in that moment, Minho knew. He knew something terrible had happened. The dream wasn't just a dream. It was. She woke up a week ago, the woman said quickly, the words tumbling out. But she had to go back to Chicago. Her mother is critically ill, and she needed to be there. She didn't want to leave you, but she had to go. Minho stared at her. Chicago. Laura's mother is critically ill. The words made sense. Logically, they made sense. But something felt wrong. That look between the doctor and this woman. The tears in her eyes. The way her voice shook when she spoke. She was lying. He didn't know how he knew. Didn't know why his instincts were screaming at him that this wasn't true. But deep in his gut he knew. Something had happened to Laura. Something these people didn't want to tell him. But his head hurt so badly. His thoughts were so muddled. And the woman seemed so sincere and so certain. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe the injury was making him paranoid. Okay, he said finally, though the bad feeling didn't go away. Okay. The woman sagged with relief. You should rest now, the doctor said. You've been through a significant trauma. Your body needs time to heal. Minho nodded slowly, exhaustion pulling at him despite his anxiety. But as the doctor left and the woman, who was she? Why didn't he know her? Settled back into the chair beside his bed, one thought kept circling through his mind. I need to call Laura. I need to hear her voice. I need to know she's really okay. Days passed. Minho's body slowly healed. He was able to sit up, then stand, then walk short distances with help. But the confusion remained. There were gaps in his memory. Things people said that he should know but didn't. References to events he couldn't remember. And he still didn't know who the woman was. The one who was always there, always helping him, and always looking at him with such sadness in her eyes. He was too embarrassed to ask. She clearly knew him. Clearly worked for him, based on how she acted. So he just pretended. Nodded along when she talked about things he didn't remember. But Laura, he couldn't reach Laura. His phone was gone. The hospital said his personal effects had been lost or damaged in the incident. He didn't remember what incident, but apparently it had been serious enough to put him in a coma. I need to call Laura, he told the woman. He really needed to figure out her name. Can I use your phone? Oh, Mr. Kang, I tried calling her earlier, the woman said quickly. She didn't answer. The time difference, you know. And she's very busy with her mother. But I left a message. She'll call back when she can. It was a reasonable explanation. But deep down, Minho knew that Laura should have called a long time ago, knowing that he is in the hospital, but she didn't call. I want to try anyway, he insisted. The woman looked panicked. Mr. Kang, really, you should rest. The doctor said. I want to call my wife. How about I call Hanul instead? The woman said desperately. Your son? He's been so worried about you. He'd love to see you. Minho stared at her. Who's Hanul? The woman's face went white. What? Hanul, Minho repeated slowly, confused by her reaction. Who is that? You said my son, but I don't have. He paused. Do I have a son? The woman was on her feet, backing away from him, her hand over her mouth. Oh no, she whispered. Oh no, oh no, oh no. What's wrong? What did I? Doctor, the woman screamed, running to the door. Doctor. Please, I need the doctor. No. Within moments, medical staff flooded the room. The woman, Mrs. Something, he'd heard a nurse call her Mrs. Yuchan, was talking rapidly, gesturing at Minho, clearly upset. Dr. Jamin approached Minho's bed, his expression grave. Mr. Kang, I'm going to ask you some questions. Can you tell me what year it is? Minho thought. 2022. The doctor's face confirmed what Minho already suspected from their reactions. That wasn't the right answer. Can you tell me the last thing you remember? The last clear memory you have. Minho tried to think. His memories were there, clear and solid, up until. Laura and I just got married, he said slowly. We'd been talking about getting a place together. We were looking at apartments. And then he frowned. I don't remember anything after that. It's just blank. Dr. Kim exchanged a look with Mrs. Yuchan. Mr. Kang, the doctor said gently, what's the last memory you have of Laura? What does she look like in your memory? Minho paused, picturing her. She has long dark hair. Beautiful brown skin. She wears these gold hoop earrings I bought her for our wedding. His voice softened. She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And you don't remember having a son? No. We'd talked about wanting children eventually, but we were just married. We weren't. He stopped, dread creeping up his spine. Why are you asking me this? What's going on? Dr. Kim pulled up a chair and sat down, his expression kind but serious. Mr. Kang, the head trauma you suffered has affected your memory. You must have been hit in the head too. Specifically, you appear to have retrograde amnesia. Amnesia, Minho repeated numbly. Yes. Based on what you've told me, you've lost approximately 3 years of memories. The current year is 2025, not 2022. You and your wife have been married for over 3 years. And yes, you have a 3-year-old son named Hanol. The words didn't make sense. He had a son he didn't remember. I don't. Minho's hands were shaking. I don't understand. How can I not remember 3 years of my life? How can I not remember my own child? Memory loss from head trauma can be unpredictable, Dr. Kim explained. Sometimes the memories come back on their own over time. Sometimes they don't. We'll need to do more tests to determine the extent of the damage. Minho felt like he was drowning. 3 years of his life, just erased. What had happened in those 3 years? I want to see him, Minho said suddenly. My son. I want to meet my son. Mrs. Yuchan, who'd been crying quietly in the corner, looked up with red-rimmed eyes. Are you sure, Mr. Kang? Perhaps you should wait until. I want to meet my son, Minho repeated firmly. Now. Please. Mrs. Yuchan looked at Dr. Taemin, who nodded. I'll call the teacher, she said softly. I'll have her bring Hanol. She left the room, and Minho sat there in the hospital bed, trying to process the impossible. And he had a son. And a wife who was supposedly in Chicago, but who he still couldn't shake the feeling was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere he couldn't reach her. Somewhere that filled him with inexplicable dread. Hanol arrived 40 minutes later. Minho heard him before he saw him, a small, excited voice in the hallway. Is Daddy awake? Can I see him now? Is he all better? Remember what I told you, Hanol, Mrs. Yuchan's voice answered. Daddy's been very sick. He might seem different. But he loves you very much, okay? I know. I miss Daddy so much. And Mommy too. When is Mommy coming back? Minho's chest tightened at the mention of Laura. Then the door opened, and a small figure rushed into the room. The child, Hanol, was beautiful. He had medium brown skin, a perfect blend of 2 heritages. Soft black wavy hair that looked perpetually tousled. Large, expressive almond-shaped eyes that were bright with joy and relief. He was wearing a small backpack with dinosaurs on it, and he ran toward Minho's bed with the uncoordinated enthusiasm of a toddler. Daddy, he cried, his small face lit up with pure happiness. You're awake. I missed you so much. Mrs. Yuchan said you and Mommy were traveling, but you were gone for so long and I. He launched himself at the bed, trying to climb up, his small arms reaching for Minho. Minho caught him reflexively, helping the small body up onto the bed. And then Hanol threw his arms around Minho's neck and hugged him with all the strength in his small body. I missed you, Daddy, Hanol said, his voice muffled against Minho's shoulder. I missed you so much. Minho sat there, frozen, this small warm body pressed against him, these small arms wrapped around his neck, and felt absolutely nothing. No recognition. No rush of paternal love. No memory of this child's birth, his first steps, his first words, the last 3 years of his life. Just a stranger. A very sweet, very affectionate stranger who was calling him Daddy. Hanol, Mrs. Yuchan said gently from the doorway. Remember, Daddy's been sick. He might need some space. But Hanol pulled back just enough to look at Minho's face, and his large eyes, so much like Laura's, Minho realized with a jolt, were shining with unshed tears of joy. Are you all better now, Daddy? Does your head still hurt? Mrs. Yuchan said you hit your head really bad. Minho opened his mouth. Closed it. Didn't know what to say. This was his son. His and Laura's son. The product of 3 years of love and life that he couldn't remember. He started. Hanol waited, patient and trusting. And Minho couldn't do it. Couldn't say the words that would destroy that happiness. Couldn't tell this innocent child that his father, the man he'd apparently been waiting weeks to see, didn't remember him at all. "My head's much better," Minho heard himself say. "Thank you for asking." Hanul beamed. "That's good. Because I have so much to tell you. I learned a new song at school, and I made a new friend named Minjun, and I drew you a picture. It's in my backpack, and—" The child chattered on, happily detailing the small events of his 3-year-old life, completely unaware that every word was landing on ears that had no context, no history, and no memory of any of it. Minho looked over Hanul's head at Mrs. Yuchan, who was watching the scene with tears streaming down her face. And he understood. This child had already lost his mother, at least temporarily, to Chicago. If Minho told him the truth, that he didn't recognize him, didn't remember him, didn't know him, it would hurt him. So Minho did the only thing he could do. He wrapped his arms around the small body still chattering away in his lap, and he pretended that his heart recognized this child as his own, even though his mind insisted he was a stranger. "I missed you too," he whispered into Hanul's soft hair, and hoped that someday, somehow, it would become true. Mrs. Yuchan turned away, pressing her hand to her mouth to muffle a sob. Because she knew the truth that Minho didn't. That Hanul didn't. Laura wasn't in Chicago. Laura wasn't coming back. And when Minho's memories didn't return, when the truth finally had to come out, this small, innocent child would lose everything all over again. But for now, at this moment, Hanul was happy. He had his father back. And Mrs. Yuchan would let him have this. Just for a little while longer. Just until the lies became impossible to maintain. For now, she would let this child believe his world was still intact, even though she knew it had already shattered beyond repair. Welcome back to Afro-Korean Diaries. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any video. Now, let's dive into the story. Chapter 3. Time to return the favor. Minho's body hit the floor with a heavy, terrible sound. Mrs. Yuchan screamed, dropping to her knees beside him. His face was completely pale, his eyes rolled back, his body limp and unresponsive. "Minho, my dear." "Oh God, please." Her hands shook as she fumbled for her phone, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Please wake up. Please." She dialed the villa's security with trembling fingers. "Emergency," she cried when they answered. "Mr. Kang has collapsed. Call an ambulance immediately. Hurry, please hurry." The next minutes were a blur of chaos. Security personnel rushing in, checking Minho's pulse, confirming he was breathing but unconscious. The distant wail of sirens getting closer. Mrs. Yuchan knelt beside Minho's unconscious form, one hand gripping his, the other covering her mouth to muffle her sobs. "I'm sorry," she whispered over and over. "I'm so sorry, my dear boy. I should have told you. I'm so sorry." The paramedics arrived, efficient and professional, loading Minho onto a stretcher, asking questions Mrs. Yuchan could barely answer through her tears. What happened? He received devastating news. His wife's death. Any medical conditions? Head trauma. Recent coma. Memory loss. How long was he unconscious? He was unconscious for weeks. As they loaded him into the ambulance, Mrs. Yuchan caught a glimpse of Nana standing in the doorway of the servants' quarters, watching the scene unfold. For just a moment, their eyes met, and she saw the sadness in Nana's eyes. The ambulance doors closed, and Mrs. Yuchan had no time to think about anything except praying that Minho would be all right. The hospital was the same one where Minho had spent weeks in a coma. The same sterile hallways. The same antiseptic smell. The same terrible fluorescent lighting. Mrs. Yuchan sat in the same waiting room where she'd waited before, but this time Hanul wasn't with her. She'd left him with one of the household staff, not wanting the little boy to see his father being rushed to the hospital again. He'd already lost his mother. He couldn't lose his father too. Hours crawled by. Doctors came and went. Tests were run. Examinations were conducted. Mrs. Yuchan answered questions, signed forms, and waited with the terrible patience of someone who'd already spent too much time in hospitals. Finally, Dr. Jae-min, the same doctor who'd treated Miho after the shooting emerged. "Mrs. Yuchan," he said gently. "Mr. Kang is stable. He's regained consciousness." Relief flooded through her. "Oh, thank God. Can I see him?" Dr. Jaemin hesitated. "You can see him, but there's something you should know." Mrs. Yuchan's relief evaporated. "What? What's wrong?" "Physically, he's fine," the doctor explained. "The fainting was caused by extreme emotional shock. His body essentially shut down to protect his mind from processing trauma it couldn't handle." "But Mrs. Yuchan." The doctor paused, choosing his words carefully. "His memories have returned." Mrs. Yuchan's breath caught. "All of them." "All of them," Dr. Jaemin confirmed. "The shock of learning about his wife's death seems to have triggered the return of the 3 years he'd lost. He remembers everything now. His marriage, his son, and" another pause, "the day his wife was killed." Mrs. Yuchan closed her eyes, grief and relief warring in her chest. "Can I see him?" she asked again. "Yes, but—" Dr. Jaemin's expression grew troubled. "Mrs. Yuchan, Mr. Kang is not responsive. Physically, he's recovered from the fainting episode. His vitals are stable. He's conscious and aware. But he won't speak, won't react. He just stares. We've tried everything to get him to engage, but he's completely shut down emotionally." "Catatonic," Mrs. Yuchan whispered. "Not quite," the doctor said. "He's aware of his surroundings. He can hear us. But he's chosen to withdraw completely. It's a defensive mechanism, his mind protecting itself from grief it can't process. We call it a dissociative state. He's retreated inside himself." Mrs. Yuchan felt tears sliding down her face again. "What do we do?" "We wait," Dr. Jaemin said gently. "We give him time and space to process. We don't push. Some patients come out of these states on their own when they're ready. Others need psychiatric intervention. For now, the best thing we can do is be patient. Let him heal at his own pace." Mrs. Yuchan nodded numbly. "Can I see him now?" "Of course. But please, don't expect him to respond. And try not to be too distressed if he doesn't acknowledge your presence." The doctor led her to Miho's room. He sat upright in the hospital bed, staring at the wall across from him. His face was absolutely blank. No expression or emotion. Just nothing. "Miho?" Mrs. Yuchan said softly, approaching the bed. "My dear, it's me." No response. Not even a flicker of acknowledgement. "I'm so sorry," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry for lying to you. I thought I was protecting you, but I was wrong. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to grieve." Still nothing. Miho continued to stare at the wall, his dark eyes unfocused, his body perfectly still. Mrs. Yuchan reached out and took his hand. It was warm, alive, but completely limp in her grasp. "Laura loved you so much," she whispered. "She would want you to keep living, to take care of Hanul, to remember the good times you had together, not just the way she died." Miho's expression didn't change. Mrs. Yuchan sat with him for hours, talking to him gently, holding his hand, trying to reach the man trapped somewhere behind those blank eyes. But Miho never responded, moved, or showed any sign he even heard her. He was gone. Not dead, but not truly alive either. Lost somewhere in his grief. 3 days later, the doctors agreed to discharge him. "There's nothing more we can do here," Dr. Jaemin explained to Mrs. Yuchan. "He's physically healthy. This is a psychological issue now. Being at home, in familiar surroundings, might actually help more than staying in the hospital." So Miho was brought back to the villa. He moved when guided, ate when food was placed on his lips. But he never spoke, never initiated any action, or ever showed any emotion. He was like a living ghost, inhabiting a body but not truly present. Mrs. Yuchan settled him in his bedroom, the room he'd shared with Laura. She'd worried it might be too painful, but Miho showed no reaction to being there. No reaction to anything. Days passed in this terrible stasis. Hanul would come to his father's door, calling for him, asking when Daddy would come play. Mrs. Yuchan would make excuses, saying Daddy was still sick, needed rest. The little boy accepted this with the easy faith of a 3-year-old, but his large eyes showed worry. Minho sat in his room, staring at nothing, trapped in his mind. Until the evening, everything changed. Nana had been watching the situation carefully. She'd maintained her humble, grateful persona around Mrs. Yuchan, expressing appropriate concern about Miho's condition. Nana had pieced together enough of the story to understand what had happened. Now Minho remembered everything. He remembered who'd killed his wife, remembered his own near death, and he'd retreated into himself, consumed by grief. Nana saw this as an opportunity to act. That evening, as Mrs. Yuchan prepared dinner downstairs and Hanol played in his room, Nana made her way to Miho's bedroom. She knocked softly. No response, of course. She opened the door anyway. Minho sat in an armchair by the window, staring out at the darkening sky. He didn't turn when she entered. Didn't acknowledge her presence at all. Perfect. Nana closed the door behind her and moved closer. Not too close, she didn't want to spook him if he was more aware than he appeared. But close enough that he could hear her clearly. "Mr. Kang," she said softly. "I know you can hear me." No response. But she continued anyway. "I know you're in pain. I know you're devastated by what happened to Mrs. Kang. I can't imagine what you're going through." She paused, watching him carefully. Still no reaction. "But Mr. Kang," Nana continued, her voice taking on a harder edge, "being in this state won't give Laura any justice. The person who shot her is still out there, still living his life while Laura is gone." She saw it. Just the slightest tension in his shoulders. He was listening. "You have power," Nana pressed. "You have resources. You could find him, punish him, make him pay for what he did. But instead, you're sitting here, locked in your own mind, while he walks free." Another pause. Another slight reaction, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. "And your son," Nana said, playing her final card. "Hanol is devastated. He lost his mother. And now, even though you're here, he's lost his father too. He keeps asking when Daddy will come play, when Daddy will talk to him again. He doesn't understand why you won't even look at him." There. His hands, resting on the arms of the chair, curled slightly into fists. Nana felt a surge of satisfaction. She'd reached him, gotten through the walls he'd built. "Think about it, Mr. Kang," she said quietly. "What would Laura want? Would she want you to waste away in grief? Or would she want you to be strong for your son? To seek justice for what was taken from you?" She turned and left the room, closing the door softly behind her. Inside, Minho remained perfectly still for several long moments. Then, slowly, his hands uncurled from fists. His jaw set with determination. And behind his eyes, something shifted. The blank emptiness replaced by something harder. Nana was right about one thing. Grief wouldn't bring Laura back. Wouldn't give her justice. But vengeance might. The man who'd shot Laura, who'd killed his wife, traumatized his son, destroyed his family, was still out there. Lee Taemin. Minho remembered him now. The confrontation in the hallway. The fight for the gun. Laura's shocked face as the bullet struck her. The terrible moment when Taemin had struck him, and everything had gone dark. He remembered waking weeks later to find his wife dead and his memories gone. He remembered the agony of slowly piecing together a life he couldn't recall. And now he remembered it all. Every moment. Every kiss. Every fight. Every perfect, precious memory of 3 years with Laura. All of it was stolen from him. All of it ended by one man's desire for revenge. Well, Minho understood revenge now. He understood it perfectly. Lee Taemin had taken everything from him. His wife. His memories. His peace. It was time to return the favor. Minho's face remained blank, but anyone watching carefully would have seen the subtle shift in his expression. The grief was still there. The devastation and the soul-crushing loss. But now it was joined by something else. Something cold and hard and absolutely unyielding. The will to make his enemies pay. The next morning, Mrs. Yuchan descended the stairs expecting another silent day of trying to coax Minho to eat, to respond, to show any sign of being present. What she found stopped her in her tracks. Minho sat at the dining table, dressed in casual but neat clothes, not the pajamas he'd been wearing for days. His hair was combed. His face was clean-shaven. And in front of him sat an open laptop, his fingers moving efficiently across the keyboard. Mrs. Yuchan stood frozen in the doorway, hardly daring to believe what she was seeing. "Miho," she whispered. He looked up from the laptop, his dark eyes meeting hers. The blank emptiness was gone, replaced by something intense and focused. His expression was controlled, but she could see the determination burning beneath the surface. "Good morning, Mrs. Yuchan," he said calmly. His voice, after days of silence, hearing him speak brought tears to her eyes. You're back," she breathed. "You're talking. I'm fine," Miho said, though his eyes told a different story. He wasn't fine. He was far from fine. But he was functional. Mrs. Yuchan wanted to rush forward, to hug him, to cry with relief. But before she could move, the sound of footsteps on the stairs made them both turn. Nana descended first, with Hanul's small hand in hers. They'd apparently been upstairs together, Nana helping get the boy ready for the day, as she'd taken to doing to make herself useful. Nana's eyes widened when she saw Miho at the table, saw him working on the laptop. And when their eyes met, Miho's expression hardened into something cold and assessing. He stared at her with an intensity that made Nana's breath catch. Not the blank stare of the past few days, but a focused, penetrating gaze that seemed to see right through her. She panicked, her forehead was sweating. But before she could panic further, Hanul noticed his father. "Daddy," the little boy cried, his face lighting up with joy. He released Nana's hand and ran across the room. "Daddy, you're better. You're not sick anymore." Miho's hard expression softened immediately. He closed the laptop and turned toward his son, opening his arms. Hanul launched himself into his father's embrace, small arms wrapping around Miho's neck with all the desperate love of a child who'd thought he'd lost another parent. "I missed you," Hanul said, his voice muffled against Miho's shoulder. "I missed you so much. Mrs. Yuchan said you were sick, but I knew you'd get better." "I knew it." Miho held his son close, one hand cradling the back of Hanul's head, the other wrapped securely around the small body. His eyes closed briefly, and Mrs. Yuchan saw the grief cross his face before he controlled it. "I'm better now," Miho said quietly. "I'm sorry I worried you, Hanul. I'm here now." The boy pulled back just enough to look at his father's face, his large almond eyes so much like Laura's, searching Miho's expression. "Are you really better?" Hanul asked seriously. "Promise?" "I promise," Miho said, though the words seemed to cost him. "I'm not going anywhere." Hanul beamed and hugged his father again. Miho held him for a long moment, drawing strength from the warm, solid presence of his son. This was why he had to keep going. Why he couldn't surrender to grief. Laura was gone. But Hanul was here and Hanul needed him. And deserved to see justice done for his mother. Finally, Miho gently disentangled himself from Hanul's embrace. "Mrs. Yuchan," he said, his voice returning to that controlled, businesslike tone. "It's time for Hanul to go to school. Could you take him, please?" Mrs. Yuchan nodded immediately. "Of course, my dear. Of course." She moved to take Hanul's hand, relief and lingering concern warring on her face. He was back, yes. But there was something different about him. She'd seen this Miho before. The cold, calculated businessman who made decisions without emotion. She'd hoped he was gone forever. But grief had a way of bringing back old defenses. As Mrs. Yuchan led Hanul toward the door, the boy chattering happily about finally getting to show Daddy his drawings when he got home from school, Nana moved to follow them. "I'll help with," she started. "We need to talk," Miho said flatly. Nana froze, her heart lurching into her throat. "Mrs. Yuchan can handle taking Hanul to school alone," Miho continued, his eyes never leaving Nana's face. "You and I need to talk." The fear that washed over Nana was almost overwhelming. Her hands trembled slightly. Her mouth went dry. She knew it would eventually come to this, but facing him now made her legs wobble. She swallowed hard, trying to force down the lump of terror in her throat. "Of course, Mr. Kang," she managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady despite the panic coursing through her. Mrs. Yuchon glanced between them, clearly sensing the tension, but she didn't comment. She simply led Hanul out of the house, the little boy's cheerful voice fading as they headed to the car. The door closed and the house fell silent. And Nana was alone with Minho. She forced herself to walk to the dining table, to sit in the chair across from him, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her hands, resting on her pregnant belly, trembled visibly. The way he was looking at her cold and assessing, absolutely without mercy, made her feel really uneasy. He knew exactly who she was. And whatever was about to happen, Nana was very, very afraid. Before we dive into Chapter 3, here are some questions I need your comments on. Minho's memories have returned. He remembers everything: Laura's death, Taemin shooting them, his entire marriage. He's awakened from grief with purpose. Nana's manipulation worked, but may backfire spectacularly. Minho knows who Nana really is. They're alone now. What will he do to her? Will Nana's lies be exposed? What will Minho do about Taemin? The hunter has awakened. What happens next? Drop your comments in the community section. Chapter 4: 10 Steps Ahead. The silence in the dining room was suffocating. Nana sat across from Minho, her hands trembling on the table, her heart hammering so hard she could barely breathe. The man across from her was nothing like the broken shell who'd sat in dissociative silence for days. This Minho was sharp, focused, and absolutely terrifying in his controlled calm. His dark eyes bored into her, seeing everything. Finally, he spoke 2 words. He said it in a cold, precise manner. "Start talking." Nana swallowed hard, the lump in her throat making it difficult to breathe. She knew exactly what he meant. No pretense. No lies. Just the truth. "I'm sorry," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I've offended you and your family. I know there's no excuse for what I've done. But please, you have to believe me, I came back to make amends. To make things right." Minho's expression didn't change. He simply waited, his silence more damning than any accusation. Nana took a shaky breath and continued. "I was sent here," she said, "by Lee Taemin. He asked me to cause misunderstandings between you and your family. To create chaos and division. That was my purpose here." She saw Minho's jaw tighten slightly, but he still didn't speak. "But I'm telling you the truth now," Nana pressed on desperately. "I am no longer working with him. I can't be part of his revenge anymore." "Taemin," Minho said, his voice deadly quiet. "I knew this, that mongrel." "Yes," Nana confirmed. "So, what happened between you two? Why are you exposing him?" Minho asked. Nana hesitated, then forced herself to continue. "I loved Taemin. I've loved him for 5 years. I did all his dirty work because I loved him and I didn't want to lose him, but as time went on, I discovered that he was selfish and he had no heart. When I informed him that I was carrying his baby, he just abandoned me in the hospital. I decided to find a way to give birth to this child because abortion wasn't an option for me. The child is innocent and I will never forgive myself knowing that I killed an innocent baby." Minho leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving her face. "And the person who kidnapped my secretary. The person who impersonated Kim Park. That was Taemin too, wasn't it?" Nana looked confused. "What?" "No, I mean, yes, but," she shook her head, trying to organize her thoughts. "Mr. Kang, the person you arrested, Kim Park, he's innocent." Minho went very still. "What did you say?" "Kim Park didn't kidnap anyone," Nana said urgently. "The man who did those things, who used Kim Park's identity, that wasn't the real Kim Park. That was Taemin." "Explain," Minho commanded, his voice like steel. Nana took a deep breath. "Before Taemin started his revenge, he did extensive research on your wife, on Laura. He wanted to know everything about her. Her background, her friends, her life before you. That's when he discovered she had a childhood friend named Kim Park." Minho's hands curled into fists on the table. "Taemin saw an opportunity," Nana continued. "He could use Kim Park's identity to get close to Laura, to gain her trust. So he created a fake Kim Park. Taemin used that identity to kidnap your secretary." "And the real Kim Park?" Minho asked, though he already knew the answer. is innocent, Nana confirmed. He was framed. Set up to take the fall for crimes he didn't commit. Son of a bitch, Minho cursed under his breath. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. Where are you going? Nana asked nervously. To bail out Kim Park, Minho said shortly. To get an innocent man out of prison. And when I come back, we're going to have a much longer conversation about exactly what you and Taemin planned. He grabbed his car keys and strode toward the door. Mr. Kang, Nana called after him. Minho paused, but didn't turn around. I really am sorry, she said quietly. For everything. Minho didn't respond. He simply walked out, the door closing behind him with finality. The drive to the police station felt surreal. Kim Park is sitting in prison for a crime he didn't commit, while the real criminal walked free. And Minho had put him there. Not intentionally, though, but he'd been so desperate to find who'd kidnapped his secretary, so eager to blame someone for the chaos in his life, that he'd accepted the evidence at face value. Evidence planted by Taemin. It all made sense now. The too perfect timing. The convenient evidence. The way Kim Park had protested his innocence but couldn't prove his alibi. Because he'd been set framed. Minho's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Kim Park had been sentenced to 10 years in prison. 10 years of his life, stolen. All because Minho had been too consumed by his own problems to look deeper, to question the narrative presented to him. This was before Laura died. Back when she was still alive, still by his side. She'd believed in Kim Park's innocence and had tried to argue for him. And Minho had dismissed her concerns. The guilt was overwhelming. By the time he reached the station, Minho had made his decision. He would use every ounce of influence he had to get Kim Park released. He would reopen the case, present new evidence, and force the courts to acknowledge the truth. It took hours. He called lawyers, had meetings with officials. The careful application of money and influence in places where such things mattered. But Minho had power, resources, and connections. And he used all of them. The case will be reopened, his lawyer finally confirmed. Given the new testimony we're promising from Nana, the judge has agreed to an emergency hearing. If her testimony holds up, Kim Park will be released immediately. When? Minho demanded. 3 days from now. Make it sooner. Mr. Kang, this is already unprecedented speed. Make it sooner, Minho repeated, his voice brooking no argument. An innocent man has been in prison for months because of lies. Every day he spends there is another injustice. So make it sooner. The lawyer sighed. I'll do what I can. Minho nodded and turned to leave. Mr. Kang, the lawyer called after him. Are you going to see Kim Park? To tell him in person. Minho stopped walking. See Kim Park. Face the man whose life he'd destroyed. Look into the eyes of someone he'd wronged so profoundly. No, Minho said quietly. I'll go to the court instead. Handle the paperwork there. It was cowardice, and he knew it. But he couldn't face Kim Park. Not until he could offer the man his freedom along with his apology. One wrong at a time. By the time Minho returned to the villa, evening had fallen. Nana was in the living room, sitting nervously on the edge of the sofa. She stood when he entered, her hands clasped anxiously in front of her pregnant belly. Is it done? She asked. The case is being reopened, Minho confirmed. There will be a hearing in a few days. You'll testify. Tell them everything you just told me. And if your testimony holds up, Kim Park will be released. Nana nodded, relief washing over her face. I'll tell them everything. I promise. Minho moved to pour himself a drink, his movements controlled but tense. I don't believe that you would leave Taemin just like that. 5 years of a relationship is not 5 days, neither is it 5 hours. Minho said to Nana, while looking at her suspiciously. Nana was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. When he told me about his mother, about what you did or didn't do, I understood his pain. I wanted to help him get his revenge so we could move on with our lives. She touched her pregnant belly, tears sliding down her face. I thought our unborn child would change things. That he'd see we had a future. Something worth living for beyond revenge. He didn't care, Nana whispered. About me or about the baby. He was so consumed by his need for vengeance that nothing else mattered. When I told him I was pregnant, he barely advised me to abort the baby because he believed the pregnancy would interfere with his plans. She wiped her eyes, anger mixing with the grief in her expression. I realized then that he would never change. That revenge was all he cared about. That even if he succeeded, even if he destroyed you completely, it wouldn't make him happy. It wouldn't bring his mother back. It wouldn't make him capable of loving anyone. Nana looked at Miho directly. I don't want my child growing up with a father consumed by hatred. I don't want to be part of this cycle of revenge anymore. So I ended it. I'm telling the truth. I'm helping free an innocent man. And I've already cut ties with Taemin. Miho studied her face, looking for deception. He saw only exhaustion and genuine remorse. This is all my fault, Miho said quietly. Nana looked confused. What? Taemin, Miho elaborated. The monster he became. That's on me. I made him this way. But he should have let go, Nana said. Miho sat down heavily, the weight of old guilt settling on his shoulders. I let an innocent woman die. Mr. Kang, Nana started. I made him into this, Miho interrupted. The Taemin who killed my wife, who shot me, and who destroyed my family, I created him. My callousness. My cruelty. I turned him into a monster bent on revenge. They sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Nana spoke. I wanted to help him get revenge at first. I thought if he could make you suffer the way he'd suffered, maybe he'd find peace. Maybe we could build something new from the ashes of his pain. But revenge doesn't work that way, Miho said. No, Nana agreed. It doesn't. It just creates more pain, more suffering, an endless cycle that destroys everyone it touches. She touched her belly again. When Taemin didn't care about our baby, when he looked at me with nothing but coldness, I realized he was already destroyed. Revenge had consumed him completely. There was nothing left of the man I'd loved. I'm sorry, Miho said. Nana looked surprised. For what? For my part in creating this situation. For the pain you're in. He gestured vaguely. All of it. I'm the one who should apologize, Nana said. I was the tool Taemin used to hurt your family. No, Miho agreed. But you're trying to make it right now. That counts for something. Nana nodded, tears sliding down her face again. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. And then I don't know what I'll do. But I won't be part of this anymore. Miho stood. Thank you. For telling me the truth. For helping free Kim Park. It's the least I can do, Nana said quietly. That night, after Nana had retreated to the servants' quarters, Miho found Mrs. Yuchan in the kitchen. Mrs. Yuchan, he said. We need to talk about the funeral. The elderly woman's face crumpled with grief. Oh, my dear. I've been thinking about that too. After the court hearing, Miho said, his voice carefully controlled. After Kim Park is freed and this is resolved, we'll make arrangements for Laura to be buried properly. Mrs. Yuchan nodded, tears streaming down her face. But her mother, Miho continued, his voice cracking slightly. Laura's mother needs to know. She has a right to know that her daughter is gone. He stopped, unable to continue. Mrs. Yuchan reached out and took his hand. My dear, I know this is difficult. I don't have the courage, Miho admitted, his carefully maintained control finally breaking. I don't know how to call her and tell her that Laura is dead. That I failed to protect her daughter. That I let her die. You didn't let her die, Mrs. Yuchan said firmly. You were shot too. You nearly died yourself. This isn't your fault. It feels like my fault, Miho whispered. Mrs. Yuchan squeezed his hand. My dear, perhaps we should wait. Until after the court matter is resolved. You're carrying so much right now, the grief, the guilt, the need for justice. Let's handle one thing at a time. Free Kim Park. Close that chapter. Then we'll call Laura's mother together. I'll be there with you. Miho nodded slowly. You're right. One thing at a time. And Miho, Mrs. Yuchan added gently. Laura's mother loved you. She knew her daughter was happy with you. When we tell her what happened, she won't blame you. She'll grieve with you. Not against you. I hope you're right, Miho said. I am, Mrs. Yuchan assured him. Now get some rest. The hearing is in a few days. You need to be strong. Miho nodded and headed upstairs, though he knew sleep would be elusive. Too many ghosts. Too many regrets. Too many thoughts of revenge against the man who'd taken everything from him. But first, justice for Kim Park. Then, vengeance for Laura. The day of the court hearing arrived. Minho dressed carefully in a dark suit, his appearance impeccable despite the turmoil roiling inside him. This was the day Kim Park would finally be freed. The day an innocent man's nightmare would end. Mrs. Yuchon and Nana were waiting downstairs. Hanol had been left with the household staff. This wasn't something a 3-year-old needed to witness. "Ready?" Minho asked Nana. She nodded, though her face was pale. "I'm ready. I'll tell them everything." They drove to the courthouse in tense silence. Minho's lawyer met them at the entrance, briefing them on the procedure. "This is highly unusual," the lawyer said. "Emergency hearings for overturning convictions don't happen often. But given the new evidence, Nana's testimony, and your influence," the judge agreed. "If her testimony is credible, Kim Park will be released immediately." "It's credible," Minho said firmly. They entered the courtroom. Kim Park's lawyer was already there, looking hopeful for the first time in months. And then there was Kim Park himself. Minho saw him being led in by guards, wearing prison clothes, his face gaunt and tired. When Kim Park's eyes met Minho's, there was no anger, just profound sadness and resignation. Minho looked away, shame burning in his chest. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The hearing was called to order. "We're here today to consider new evidence in the case of Kim Park," the judge began. "Evidence that suggests Mr. Kim may have been wrongfully convicted. The key witness is he consulted his notes. Ms. Nana. Is she present?" The lawyer looked around. She was just here. She arrived with Mr. Kang. Everyone turned to look at Minho and Mrs. Yuchon. "Where is she?" Minho asked Mrs. Yuchon quietly. "She said she needed to use the restroom," Mrs. Yuchon whispered back. "Right before we came in. She said she'd be quick." A cold feeling settled in Minho's stomach. "Perhaps we should wait a few minutes," the judge said, frowning. "This is a crucial witness." They waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. Still no Nana. "Mr. Kang," the lawyer said urgently. "We need her. Without her testimony, we have nothing." Minho stood abruptly. "I'll find her." He strode out of the courtroom, Mrs. Yuchon following close behind. "Where's the restroom?" Minho demanded of a court employee. "Down that hall on the left." Minho ran. He burst through the restroom door, not caring that it was the women's restroom. "Nana," he called. "Nana, we need you in the courtroom." But no one responded. He checked the stalls, but it was all empty. Minho was about to leave when he caught sight of the mirror above the sinks. And froze. Written on the mirror in red paint, or was it lipstick, was a message. It was bold, clear, and mocking. "I am always 10 steps ahead of you." Minho stared at the words, his blood running cold. Taemin. This was Taemin's doing. Nana hadn't disappeared on her own. She'd been taken. And she was the only chance Kim Park had to get his freedom. Mrs. Yuchon appeared in the doorway. "Minho? Did you?" She stopped, seeing the message on the mirror. "Oh no. He took her," Minho said, his voice deadly quiet. "Or threatened her. Or manipulated her. However he did it, Taemin made sure she wouldn't testify." "What do we do?" Mrs. Yuchon asked. Minho stared at the mocking message, fury building in his chest. Taemin had been right. He was always 10 steps ahead. He had ensured that even when Minho thought he was gaining ground, uncovering truth, and seeking justice, Taemin was still controlling the game. "Mr. Kang." The lawyer appeared, breathless from running. "The judge is getting impatient. We need the witness now, or I need more time to get the witness. Please help me convince the judge to give me a few days to get the witness." Minho pleaded with his lawyer. "What? What happened? Why are you asking for more time when you know how difficult it was for me to make?" "I wasn't expecting her to disappear," Minho said flatly. "Disappear? The lawyer's face fell. "Then we have nothing. Without her testimony, the conviction stands. Kim Park stays in prison." Minho's hands curled into fists. Another innocent person suffering because of Taemin's games. "I'm sorry," the lawyer said quietly. "I know you tried. Minho turned away from the mocking message on the mirror, from the empty restroom that should have contained his star witness, from yet another reminder that Taemin was always one step ahead. He walked back to the courtroom, each step feeling like a defeat. The judge looked at him expectantly. "Mr. Kang?" The witness. "Please, Your Honor, I need more time to find her. She seems to be missing, Your Honor," Minho said, his voice carefully controlled despite the fury raging inside him. "I apologize for wasting the court's time." The judge frowned. "Then, without new evidence, I have no choice but to uphold the original conviction. This hearing is adjourned." The gavel fell. Kim Park slumped in his chair, the brief hope in his eyes dying. And Minho stood there, watching another innocent person pay the price for his war with Taemin. Lee Taemin had won again. But this time, Minho made a silent vow. This wasn't over. Not even close. Taemin might be 10 steps ahead right now. But Minho was done playing defense. It was time to go on the offense. Time to stop reacting and start hunting. And when he found Taemin, and he would find him, there would be no mercy. No second chances and no justice. Hello, fam. I know that this story is taking you on a roller coaster of emotion, but I promise you that it would end soon. Justice would surely be served. Another quick questions to contemplate on. Nana has disappeared right before testifying. Kim Park remains in prison. Where is Nana? Taken? Manipulated? Or is she still working with Taemin? Minho's vow. The hunter is done being hunted. What will Minho do now? How will he find Taemin? Can Kim Park ever be freed? Is Nana's baby in danger? The game escalates. Minho versus Taemin. Who will win? Please share this video and also subscribe. Remember, our target is 3K subscribers. Chapter 5. Return of Yoon Sung-ho. Nana's eyes fluttered open slowly, consciousness returning in fragments. Her head ached and her mouth felt dry. And she was lying on something soft. Not the modest bed in the servants' quarters at Minho's villa. She blinked against the dim light filtering through unfamiliar curtains, trying to orient herself. Where was she? The last thing she remembered was the courthouse. The restroom. And then, nothing. A blank void where memory should be. Panic fluttered in her chest as she pushed herself upright, one hand instinctively going to her pregnant belly. The baby. Was the baby okay? She took a shaky breath, relieved to feel the familiar weight, the subtle movements that told her the child was still safe inside her. But where was she? Nana looked around the room properly now, taking in details. Master bedroom. Large bed with expensive linens. Minimalist decor with dark furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. And suddenly, she recognized it. This was Taemin's apartment. His bedroom. She'd lived here for 5 years. And had slept in this very bed countless times. How could she not recognize it immediately? The familiar surroundings made her skin crawl now. She'd left this place. Cut ties and chosen a different path. So why was she back here? Nana swung her legs over the side of the bed, intending to stand, to search for Taemin and demand answers. Her hand went to her belly protectively as she prepared to confront him. But before she could stand, the bedroom door opened. And there he was. Lee Taemin stepped into the room carrying a delicate teacup on a small saucer. He was dressed casually, dark pants and a fitted black shirt that showed his lean build. His hair was styled back, his features as handsome and sharp as ever. But it was his expression that made Nana's blood run cold. He was smiling. Not a warm smile, not even a seductive one. This was a smile of pure triumph. Of a predator who'd successfully captured his prey. "Good morning, baby," Taemin said, his voice smooth and affectionate in a way that made her stomach turn. "I brought you tea. You must be thirsty." He moved toward the bed, extending the cup toward her. Nana scrambled backward on the mattress, away from him, her heart pounding. "Don't call me that. Don't." She pressed herself against the headboard. "Don't come near me." Taemin's smile widened. "Is that any way to greet the father of your child?" "Stay away from me," Nana repeated, her voice shaking. Taemin set the teacup down on the bedside table with deliberate care. Then he reached for her, his hand extending to cup her face in what might have once seemed like a tender gesture. Nana jerked away, rolling off the opposite side of the bed and putting the mattress between them. Her pregnant belly made her movements awkward, but fear gave her speed. "What's going on?" she demanded, her voice rising with panic. "Why am I here? What did you do to me?" Taemin tilted his head, studying her with an expression that mixed amusement and disappointment. "What's going on? Really, Nana? You were about to testify against me in court. You were going to expose everything. So I did what was necessary. You kidnapped me," Nana breathed. "I retrieved you," Taemin corrected. "There's a difference." "Let me go," Nana said, her hands instinctively protective over her belly. "Let me leave." "I won't." "Won't what?" Taemin interrupted. "Won't testify against me? Won't betray me again?" His voice hardened. "It's a bit late for that, don't you think?" Nana's mind raced. The courthouse. The restroom. She'd gone to use the facilities before testifying. And then, nothing. He must have been waiting. Must have. "You drugged me," she realized aloud. "Just a mild sedative," Taemin said casually, as if they were discussing the weather. "Enough to make you compliant while I brought you home. Where you belong." "This isn't my home anymore," Nana said firmly, despite the fear coursing through her. "I left you. You didn't take responsibility. And I'm telling you," Taemin said, his voice taking on a dangerous edge, "that you don't get to make that decision. Not when you're carrying my child. Not when you were about to destroy everything I've worked for." He moved around the bed toward her, and Nana backed toward the door. "Are you out of your mind?" Taemin asked, his tone shifting to something between incredulity and anger. "You were going to testify against me. Against the father of your unborn baby. Were you really going to put me in prison? Deprive our child of a father?" "You deserve to be punished," Nana said, her voice shaking but determined. "For what you did to Laura. For what you did to Minho. For all of it." Taemin's hand shot up. Nana flinched, bracing for the impact of a slap that had happened too many times in their relationship. But Taemin's hand stopped midair. His jaw clenched. His teeth gritted. And with visible effort, he lowered his hand without striking her. "You're lucky," he said quietly, his voice tight with barely controlled rage, "that you're pregnant. Otherwise..." "Otherwise what?" Nana challenged, finding courage in his restraint. "You'd hit me? Like you've done before? That's who you are, Taemin. That's the man you've become." "Don't," Taemin warned. But Nana pressed on, the words pouring out now. "Leave me alone. Just let me go. And leave Minho alone too. The revenge, isn't it enough already? You shot him. You killed his wife. You destroyed his family. What more do you want?" "What more?" Taemin repeated, his voice rising. "What more?" He laughed then. A harsh, bitter sound that echoed in the bedroom. "You think killing Laura was enough?" Taemin asked. "You think shooting Minho was enough? You don't understand anything, do you?" "Then explain it to me," Nana said desperately. "Make me understand why you can't let this go." Nana stared at him, seeing clearly for the first time just how far gone he truly was. The man she'd loved was indeed dead. This creature wearing his face was something else entirely. Something consumed by hatred and pain and the need for revenge. And she was trapped here with him. Meanwhile, at the villa, Minho stood in Hanol's room watching his son sleep. The little boy was curled up under his dinosaur blanket, his small face peaceful in sleep. He clutched his stuffed T-Rex, the one he'd abandoned the night his parents had been shot, but had reclaimed since. Minho reached out and gently brushed Hanol's soft black hair back from his forehead. The child stirred slightly, but didn't wake. "I promise I'll come back," Minho whispered. "And when I do, you'll be safe, truly safe forever." He stood there for another moment, memorizing his son's sleeping face. Then he turned and left the room, closing the door quietly behind him. Mrs. Yuchan was waiting in the hallway. Her warm features showed concern. "You're really going?" she asked softly. "I have to," Minho said. "I need to end this. And I can't do that from here." "How long will you be gone?" "However long it takes," Minho said. "Days. Maybe weeks. I don't know." Mrs. Yuchan's eyes filled with worry. "And Hanol? What should I tell him?" "Tell him I'm traveling for business," Minho said. "Tell him I'll be back soon. Tell him," his voice caught. "Tell him his father loves him more than anything in the world." "I will," Mrs. Yuchan promised. She reached out and took his hand. My dear, please be careful. Taemin is dangerous. I know, Minho said quietly. But so am I. People forget that. They see me now, a businessman and a father. They forget what I was before Laura softened me. Before I chose a different path. The part of me I buried when I fell in love. But Taemin brought war to my family. And in war, you fight with everything you have. Even the parts of yourself you'd rather keep hidden. Mrs. Yuchan nodded slowly. Then go. Do what you must do. We'll be here. Waiting for you. There are guards, Minho said. You won't see them. They're not physically present at the villa. But they're always watching. If any danger approaches, they'll be there instantly. You and Hanul are protected. Thank you, Mrs. Yuchan said. Minho pulled her into a brief embrace. Take care of my son. With my life, she promised. Minho released her and headed downstairs. His car was already waiting. No luggage. No goodbye to Hanul while he was awake, it would be too painful. He simply got in the car and drove away from the villa, toward a part of the city most people didn't know existed. Toward the underworld. The basement was exactly as Minho remembered it. Deep underground, accessible only through a series of checkpoints and security measures that would deter anyone without proper authorization. The lighting was harsh fluorescent. The walls were reinforced concrete. And the space was filled with the tools of his former trade. Computers. Weapons. Maps. Communication equipment. This had been his base of operations years ago, before he'd met Laura. Before he decided to go legitimate. Before he tried to become a better man. Now he was back. Full circle. His guards were already assembled when he arrived. 20 of his most elite soldiers, standing in formation, waiting for orders. These weren't the public-facing security personnel who escorted him to business meetings. These were the shadows. The ghosts. The men who did the work that couldn't be acknowledged in daylight. Sir, the lead guard said, saluting. We've been awaiting your orders. Minho strode past them to the command center, a cluster of computers and screens that dominated one wall of the basement. The guards fell in behind him. Choi and Shadow, Minho said without preamble. Status. 2 guards stepped forward, the ones he'd put in charge of finding his missing head of security and his trusted bodyguard. No trace, sir, the first guard reported. We've checked every lead. Every contact. Every known location. It's as if they vanished completely. We believe they may have been taken. Or worse. Minho's jaw tightened. Shadow and Choi had been with him for years. Loyal. Competent and trustworthy. And now they were gone. Another casualty of Taemin's war. Keep searching, Minho ordered. I want answers. Dead or alive, I want to know what happened to them. Yes, sir. Minho turned his attention to the computers. Now, Lee Taemin. Our primary target. He's gone to ground. He's shielding himself. But everyone makes mistakes. Everyone leaves traces. We're going to find those traces and follow them right to him. The guards dispersed to various computer stations. Laptops were brought out and powered up. Maps appeared on screens. Data began to flow. Taemin is a hacker, Minho continued. One of the best I've ever seen. When he worked for me, I used him to break into supposedly secure systems. To access information others thought was protected. He is extremely skilled. He paused, acknowledging the bitter irony. Which means he knows how to hide himself. How to create barriers and firewalls and false trails. He's built a digital fortress around himself, and we need to break through it. Can we hire other hackers? One guard asked. People as skilled as he is? We can try, Minho said. But Taemin knows my resources and my contacts. He'll have anticipated that and planned accordingly. So, what do we do? Another guard asked. We work, Minho said simply. We try every avenue. Every approach. We look for the smallest crack in his defenses. And we don't stop until we find it. The guards nodded and bent to their work. Minho settled into a chair in front of the main computer terminal. His fingers moved across the keyboard, attempting to trace digital footprints, to break through the layers of protection Taemin had undoubtedly erected. But within hours, the frustrating reality became clear. Taemin had always been better at this than Minho. That's why Minho had hired him in the first place, to do the things Minho couldn't do himself. Now that skill was being used against him. Minho stared at the screen, at the error messages and blocked access notifications, and felt a cold fury building in his chest. This wasn't going to be easy. Days blurred together in the underground basement. Minho barely slept or ate. He worked alongside his guards, trying approach after approach, attempting to break through Taemin's digital defenses, but nothing worked. Every false trail led nowhere. Every attempted breach was blocked or redirected. Taemin had prepared well. "Sir," one of the guards said on the third day, "perhaps we should try a different approach. Physical surveillance rather than digital tracking." "Where?" Minho asked tiredly. "We don't know where he is." "That's the whole problem." "Known associates," the guard suggested. "Former addresses. Patterns of behavior." "Do it," Minho ordered. "Try everything. I don't care how long it takes or what resources we need. Find him." The work continued. By the fifth day, Minho was exhausted but no closer to finding Taemin. His eyes burned from staring at screens. His hands ached from typing. And his soul was heavy with the knowledge that every day he spent here was another day Taemin could be planning his next move. Minho was leaning over a computer, studying yet another dead-end trail, when one of the guards suddenly stiffened. "Sir," the guard said quietly, "we have an intruder." Minho's head snapped up. "What?" "Someone's entered the basement," another guard confirmed, hand moving to his weapon. "Bypassed all our security. He is inside." "How is that possible?" Minho demanded. The guards were already moving into defensive positions, weapons drawn, forming a perimeter around Minho. "I don't know, sir," the lead guard said. "But they're here. And they're coming this way." Minho's mind raced. This basement was supposed to be impenetrable. Multiple security layers. Guards at every checkpoint. State-of-the-art detection systems. And yet someone had walked right through it all. "Could it be Taemin?" one guard whispered. "Possible," Minho said. "Everyone stay alert. When he comes into view, take him down. No hesitation." The guards nodded, weapons raised, safeties off, and Hay waited. Footsteps echoed in the corridor leading to the main room. It was steady and unhurried, as if the intruder had no fear of what awaited him. The footsteps grew closer and closer. And then a figure appeared in the doorway. Young. Male. Handsome features. Dark hair. Athletic build. Moving with casual confidence. "Now," Minho ordered. But before anyone could fire, before anyone could move, Minho's eyes registered the intruder's face. And he froze completely. His weapon lowered of its own accord. His breath caught in his chest. His mind refused to process what his eyes were seeing. Because the young man standing in the doorway, smiling slightly at the shocked expressions around him, was someone Minho had never expected to see again. "All right, fam. We are gradually reaching our goal to finishing the story, but I am very sad that I don't even have at least 1K subscribers, which means my stories are not good enough. Please don't make me give up on storytelling. Please help my channel reach 3K subscribers so that I will know that my sleepless nights trying to make videos to entertain you are not in vain." Now, let's dive into Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Unexpected Reunion. The name fell from Minho's lips like a prayer, like a curse, like something his mind couldn't quite accept as real. Yoon Sung-ho? The young man standing in the doorway of the underground basement smiled, a familiar smile that Minho hadn't seen in 5 years. A smile he'd thought was lost to him forever, buried with the friend whose death had haunted him through countless sleepless nights. "Do you miss me?" Yoon asked, his tone light, almost joking, as if he'd simply been away on a long vacation rather than presumed dead for half a decade. For a moment, Minho couldn't move or speak. His mind was screaming that this was impossible. That Yoon Sung-ho was dead. That Taemin had killed him 5 years ago. That he'd mourned this man, had carried the guilt of his death, had let that guilt influence his decision on helping Taemin years ago. But his eyes saw Yoon standing there, smiling that infuriating, cocky smile. And then something broke inside Minho. Some dam of emotion that he'd been holding back for years. He crossed the distance between them in seconds and pulled Yoon into a crushing embrace. His arms wrapped around his friend, his brother in all but blood, and held on like Yoon might disappear if he let go. Yoon returned the embrace with equal intensity, his arms strong and solid around Minho, proving he was real, he was there, and he was alive. They held each other like lovers reuniting after a long separation. Like soldiers who'd survived a war they never thought they'd escape. Like two halves of something broken finally coming back together. Minho felt tears burning in his eyes, but didn't care. Didn't care that his guards were watching. Didn't care about maintaining his cold, controlled facade. This was Yoon. His best friend. The brother he'd lost. Or thought he'd lost. When they finally pulled apart, Minho gripped Yoon's shoulders, studying his face as if to memorize every detail. How his voice cracked. How is this possible? You were dead. Taemin said you were dead. Everyone said. I know what everyone said, Yoon interrupted gently. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let you believe I was gone. But I'll explain everything. I promise. Minho opened his mouth to demand answers immediately, but Yoon held up his hand. First things first, Yoon said. Shadow and Choi, they're with me. Minho's eyes widened. What? Your head of security and your bodyguard, Yoon confirmed. They're not missing. They're not dead. They're with me, handling an important matter. They're safe. Relief flooded through Minho so intensely it was almost painful. But when did you? I've been watching you, Yoon said quietly. All these years. From a distance. Keeping an eye on you. Making sure you were okay. I wanted to reveal myself. But the timing was never right. And then Taemin made his move, and I knew I had to help you from behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, Minho repeated numbly. Shadow and Choi were getting too close to information Taemin didn't want discovered, Yoon explained. So Taemin moved against them. But I got to them first. Convinced them to trust me. Brought them into the fold. They've been helping me gather intelligence on Taemin's operations. Minho stared at his friend, his supposedly dead friend who'd apparently been orchestrating things from the shadows for years, and felt his understanding of reality shifting once again. Sit, Yoon said, gesturing to the chairs around the command center. Please. Let me explain everything. Minho nodded numbly and moved to sit. His guards remained at their stations, but were clearly listening intently. This was too important, and too impossible to ignore. Yoon pulled up a chair across from Minho, his expression growing serious. 5 years ago, Yoon began, Taemin shot me. You already knew that part. What you didn't know was that he thought he'd killed me. And I was close, so close. I'd lost so much blood. I was barely conscious. Minho's hands clenched on the arms of his chair, remembering that night. The call he'd received. The body that had supposedly been found. The funeral he'd attended for a closed casket. But someone found me, Yoon continued softly. An angel. That's what she was, what she still is to me. An angel who appeared when I needed her most. Who? Minho asked. It's a young, beautiful lady that saved my life. She saw me bleeding out and refused to let me die. She got me to a private clinic. Spent weeks keeping me alive when my body wanted to give up. His expression turned wistful, almost painful. I fell in love with her, of course. How could I not? She saved my life. Nursed me back to health. Sat by my bedside through the worst of it. She was everything. But, Minho prompted, sensing there was more. But when I finally recovered enough to look for her, to find her and thank her and tell her how I felt, she was gone. Yoon said, his voice heavy with old grief. She'd disappeared. It took me years to finally track her down. And? Minho asked. And she was already in love with someone else, Yoon finished quietly. Had moved on with her life. She found happiness. I couldn't interfere with that. So I stayed away. Stayed in the shadows. Built a new life while keeping an eye on my old one. Minho reached across and gripped his friend's shoulder. I'm sorry. Don't be, Yoon said, managing a small smile. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. He took a breath and continued. I used those years productively. I learned new skills. Taught myself things I'd never had time for before. And one of those things, his smile turned sharp, was coding and hacking. All the digital skills that Taemin thought made him untouchable. Minho sat up straighter. You learned to hack? Better than Taemin, Yoon said, his eyes gleaming with pride. I've spent 5 years studying, practicing, and improving. Taemin might be good, exceptional, even, but I am better than he is right now. He thinks no one can breach his defenses because no one ever has. But I just did. Minho felt hope kindle in his chest for the first time in days. You broke through his firewalls? Every single one, Yoon confirmed. I know where he is, Minho. I know exactly where Taemin has been hiding. The room erupted into movement. Guards leaning forward, hands reaching for weapons, voices rising with questions. Minho held up a hand for silence. Where? Yoon pulled out a tablet and pulled up a map. Here. An apartment in the Gangnam district. High-security building. Penthouse suite. He's been there the whole time, hiding in plain sight among the wealthy elite where no one would think to look for a vengeful criminal. Minho studied the map, his mind already racing through strategies. How do we get to him? Carefully, Yoon said. He has guards. Security measures. And he's paranoid, rightfully so. We'll need a solid plan. Then let's make one, Minho said, feeling purpose surge through him for the first time since the courthouse failure. Right now. Yoon grinned, that same reckless grin Minho remembered from their younger days. That's the Minho I remember. Let's bring this bastard down. They bent over the maps and schematics, planning their assault with the precision of generals preparing for war. Meanwhile, in Taemin's penthouse apartment, Nana paced her locked bedroom like a caged animal. She'd been here for days now. Taemin checked on her regularly to ensure she hadn't found a way to escape. But Nana was nothing if not resourceful. She'd spent hours examining every inch of the room, testing the windows, studying the lock, looking for weaknesses in Taemin's security. And she'd found one. A small balcony accessible through the bedroom window. A drainpipe that ran down the side of the building. Bedsheets that could be torn and braided into a makeshift rope. It would be dangerous, especially in her condition. But staying here, staying complicit in whatever Taemin was planning for Hanul, was more dangerous to her soul. She had to escape. Had to warn Minho. Had to stop this before an innocent child was hurt. Nana had just finished braiding the sheets into a rope when she heard Taemin's voice in the other room. He was on the phone, speaking in low, careful tones. But the walls were thin enough that she could make out words if she pressed her ear to the door. Still recovering, Taemin was saying. The bullet wound was serious. But the doctor did good work. She'll be ready to move soon. Nana frowned. Who was he talking about? Who had been shot? When she wakes up fully, I'll sell her, Taemin continued. There are plenty of buyers who'd pay a fortune for Minho's wife. Nana's blood turned to ice. Minho's wife. Laura. But Laura was dead. She's valuable, Taemin said. Beautiful. From a good family. The black market will pay top dollar. And Minho will never know. He will forever think that she's dead. By the time he realizes the truth, she'll be long gone. Sold to someone in another country. Nana pressed her hand over her mouth to stifle a gasp. Laura was alive. Taemin had kept her alive. I have her in the secure room, Taemin said. The hidden chamber. No one knows it exists. Not even Nana. She's perfectly safe until I'm ready to move her. He laughed, a cold, calculating sound. Minho thinks he's lost everything. But he doesn't know the truth. His wife is alive. His son is about to disappear. Taemin paused. Well, we'll see how that plays out. He ended the call. Nana stood frozen, her mind reeling. Laura was alive. She had to find her. But if she escaped now, she'd never find Laura. Taemin would move her. Hide her somewhere else. Sell her before Minho even knew to look. No. Escaping could wait. First, she had to find Laura. Had to discover where this secure room was. She had to figure out how to free her. Only then could she escape and bring help. Nana quickly untied the makeshift rope and hid it under the bed. She couldn't let Taemin know she'd been planning to escape. Instead, she had to play along. Be compliant and wait for her opportunity. That night, Taemin brought her dinner as usual. A tray with food and a glass of juice. Eat, he said curtly. You need to keep your strength up. For the baby. Nana took the tray, noting how Taemin watched her carefully and suspiciously. I'm tired of fighting, she said quietly, injecting just the right amount of defeated resignation into her voice. "You've won. I understand that now." Taemin's eyes narrowed. "Do you?" "Yes," Nana lied. "I was foolish to think I could go against you. That I could protect Minho. You're too powerful. Too smart. I see that now." She saw the satisfaction flash across Taemin's face. His ego, ever his weakness, responded to her words. "Good," he said. "That's good, Nana. I'm glad you're finally seeing sense." He left, locking the door behind him. Nana waited until his footsteps faded. Then she examined the juice glass carefully. In the dim light, she could see a faint residue at the bottom. Sedative, probably. Taemin wanted her compliant, unconscious, unable to cause problems. Very carefully, Nana poured the juice into the potted plant by the window. Then she refilled the glass with water from the bathroom sink. She arranged herself on the bed, the empty glass on the nightstand, and forced her breathing to slow. And she waited. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Finally, she heard the lock turning. Taemin entered quietly. Nana kept her breathing steady, her eyes closed, her body relaxed. She felt him approach the bed. Felt him staring at her, satisfied that the sedative had worked. Through barely cracked eyelids, Nana watched as Taemin moved across the room. He was wearing a black cloak. His movements were practiced. He approached what appeared to be a blank wall. His hand pressed against a spot that looked like nothing special. And the wall moved. A door. Hidden in the wall. Revealing a passage beyond. Taemin looked around once more. Nana quickly closed her eyes fully, and then slipped through the hidden door. It closed behind him with barely a whisper of sound. Nana counted to 30, giving him time to get deeper into the passage. Then she slipped out of bed and approached the wall. Her hands traced over the surface, searching for the mechanism. For the button or switch or… there. A slight indentation. Barely noticeable. She pressed it. The door slid open silently. Beyond was darkness. A narrow passageway leading deeper into the building's structure. Nana took a deep breath, touched her pregnant belly for courage, and stepped through. The next day, all hell broke loose. The attack came at dawn. Minho's elite guards stormed Taemin's building with military efficiency. They'd planned through the night, and now they executed that plan with lethal accuracy. Taemin's men tried to fight back. But they were outmatched, outgunned, and caught completely by surprise. Within minutes, most of Taemin's security force was neutralized. Some dead, others wounded and restrained. Taemin, hearing the assault, knew immediately what was happening. Minho had found him. "Nana," he shouted, bursting into her room. She was standing by the window, looking genuinely frightened, though not for the reasons he thought. "They're here," Taemin said urgently. "Minho's men. We need to move. Now." He grabbed her arm and dragged her toward the hidden wall panel. "Where are we going?" Nana asked, letting fear color her voice even as her mind raced. "Somewhere safe," Taemin said curtly. He pressed the panel. The door slid open. He pulled Nana through into the hidden passage. They moved quickly through the darkness, Taemin navigating from memory, Nana struggling to keep up with her pregnant belly, making balance difficult. Finally, they reached a door. Taemin unlocked it and pulled Nana through. And there, in a small, dimly lit chamber, was a hospital bed. And on that bed, hooked up to monitors and in 4-drip, lay a woman. A beautiful woman with rich brown skin and long dark hair spread across the pillow. "Laura." Nana gasped, genuine shock mixing with her pretend surprise. Seeing Laura in person, alive, was different from just knowing she was alive. "What?" Nana breathed. "How is this possible? She's supposed to be dead." "She should be dead," Taemin agreed, moving to check Laura's monitors with practiced ease. "But I decided she was more valuable alive. At least for now." "How did you get her out of the hospital?" Nana demanded, letting appropriate horror and disbelief color her voice. Taemin turned to her with a smile, cold and proud and utterly without remorse. "Simple," he said. "I found the doctor treating her. Did some research on him. Discovered he had a daughter. A beautiful teenage daughter attending an expensive private school." Nana's stomach turned, but she forced herself to keep listening. I had the girl kidnapped, Taemin continued casually, as if discussing a business transaction. Held her hostage. Then I gave the doctor a choice: successfully treat Laura, stabilize her, and secretly transfer her to my care, or his daughter would die painfully and slowly. You monster, Nana whispered. The words were out before she could stop them. Taemin's expression darkened. His hand lashed out, catching her across the face with brutal force. The slap sent Nana stumbling backward, her hand flying to her stinging cheek, tears of pain springing to her eyes. Don't you dare judge me, Taemin hissed. Everything I've done because of what was done to me. Minho created this monster. Let him deal with the consequences. Nana straightened slowly, her hand still on her burning cheek, her eyes meeting Taemin's with newfound defiance. Very soon, she said quietly, her voice steady despite her pain, you'll pay for all your evil deeds. Justice is coming for you, Taemin. And no amount of hiding or planning or cruelty will save you from it. Taemin's eyes blazed with fury. For a moment, Nana thought he might hit her again. But then sounds from above made them both freeze. All right, fam, this is the end of Chapter 6. What do you think would happen next? Yoon Sung-ho is alive. The friend, thought dead for 5 years. Shadow and Choi are safe with Yoon. Yoon has learned hacking, better than Taemin. Minho's forces have attacked Taemin's hideout. Laura is alive. Hidden in a secret chamber. Taemin kept Laura to sell her. Taemin kidnapped the doctor's daughter to force him to hand over Laura to him. Nana knows the truth now. Minho is coming. Will he find Laura? What will happen when Minho discovers his wife is alive? Everything is about to explode. The final confrontation is coming. Chapter 7. The season finale. The sound of gunfire had ceased, leaving an eerie silence that hung heavy over Taemin's penthouse building. In the hidden underground chamber, Taemin and Nana stood frozen as the unmistakable sound of helicopter blades cut through the air above them. Taemin's eyes darted to the security monitor mounted on the wall of the secret room. His fingers flew across his phone, pulling up the camera feed from the building's exterior. What he saw made his blood run cold. The building was completely surrounded. Armed guards in tactical gear formed a perimeter around every entrance and exit. And there, hovering above in a military-grade helicopter, was Minho himself, wearing body armor and protected by bulletproof shields, a microphone in his hand. Minho's voice boomed through external speakers, amplified to carry across the entire complex. Lee Taemin. The building is surrounded. There is no escape. Surrender immediately and you will be taken into custody without further incident. Resist and we will use lethal force. You have 60 seconds to comply. For a moment, Taemin simply stared at the screen, watching as Minho delivered his ultimatum with cold precision. And then Taemin began to laugh. It started as a low chuckle, then built into full-throated laughter that echoed through the underground chamber. Nana, still nursing her bruised cheek from his earlier slap, watched him with a mixture of fear and disgust. He thinks he's won, Taemin said, still laughing as his fingers moved rapidly across his phone. He actually thinks he's won. Within seconds, Taemin had hacked into the communication frequency Minho was using. His voice crackled through the speakers in Minho's helicopter. Minho, Taemin said, his voice dripping with amusement. I never thought you were this foolish. In the helicopter, Minho's expression hardened. He gestured for his pilot to maintain position as he brought the microphone closer. Taemin, surrender now. This is your last chance. Surrender. Taemin's laugh was cold and sharp. Oh, Minho. You always were too confident. Too sure of yourself. Did you really think I wouldn't have contingencies? That I wouldn't plan for exactly this scenario? The building is surrounded, Minho repeated. You have nowhere to go. I don't need to go anywhere, Taemin replied. Because I have something you want. Something infinitely more valuable than my freedom. I have your most precious possession. Minho's jaw clenched. What are you talking about? Your wife, Taemin said simply. I have Laura. And if you make one wrong move, if you so much as think about storming this building or bombing it or doing anything stupid, I will make absolutely certain that you never see her again. Do you understand me, Minho? I will make her death painful and slow. And I'll make sure you live with that knowledge for the rest of your miserable life." For a long moment, there was only silence on the line. Then Miho's voice came back, hard and cold. "My wife is dead." "Is she?" Taemin's voice was mocking. "Are you sure about that?" "She died months ago," Miho said. "In the hospital. After you shot her. So whatever game you're playing, whatever lie you're trying to sell, it won't work." "Oh, Miho," Taemin said, his voice suddenly soft and dangerous. "I didn't give up when I shot you both. I told you before that you were supposed to be the one to kill her with your own hands, so I made sure of that. You will still do that in the future. I don't have time to mince words with you. I am giving you just 20 seconds to comply." Taemin smiled at the phone. "Then let me prove it to you. But first, a demonstration of how serious I am." He gestured sharply to Nana, grabbing her arm and pulling her in front of the camera. "Tell him," Taemin commanded. "Tell Miho what you know." Nana's eyes were wide with fear, her hand protectively cradling her pregnant belly. But when she spoke, her voice was steady. "Mr. Kang," she said, looking directly into the camera that Taemin had activated on his phone. "Please. You have to listen. Don't bomb this building. Laura is here. She's alive. Taemin has been keeping her in a hidden room. If you attack, if you do anything aggressive, he'll kill her. I've seen her. She's really here." In the helicopter, Miho felt his world tilt. Laura was alive? But that was impossible. He'd been told she was dead. Mrs. Yuchan had told him. The doctors had confirmed it. There had been a death certificate, preparations for a funeral. "Don't joke with me, Taemin." "My patience is running out," Miho said again, but his voice lacked conviction now. "Then let me show you something that will change your mind." The screen on Miho's tablet suddenly flickered. A video call request popped up. Miho's hands trembled as he accepted it. The image that appeared on the screen made his breath catch in his throat. A hospital bed. Medical monitors. 4 drips. And lying on that bed, pale but undeniably alive, was a woman with beautiful brown skin and long dark hair spread across the pillow. Laura. His own Laura. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. The monitors showed vital signs, heartbeat, blood pressure, oxygen levels. All the proof that she was alive. "No," Miho whispered, tears suddenly streaming down his face. "No, this can't be." "Do you believe me now?" Taemin asked with a mocking smile. "Your wife is alive, Miho. She's been alive this whole time. And she's been in my custody. Under my control. One word from me, and she dies for real this time. So tell me, do you still want to bomb this building? Do you still want to storm in with your guards and your weapons? Because if you do, the first thing I'll do is put a bullet in Laura's head. And this time, there won't be any miraculous survival. This time, she'll be gone forever." Miho couldn't speak nor think. His entire world had just been turned upside down. Laura was alive. His wife, the woman he'd mourned, the loss he'd carried like a weight on his soul, was alive. And Taemin had her. Beside Miho, Yoon Sung-ho had been watching and listening with increasing tension. Now he reached out and gently took the tablet from Miho's shaking hands. "Taemin," Yoon said, his voice cold and clear. "This is your final warning. Come out now. Surrender peacefully. Or we will bomb this entire building and everyone in it." Taemin didn't quite understand the voice that spoke, but his gut was telling him that the voice was familiar, but due to his ego, he didn't think further to know who was really talking to him. "Even Laura?" Taemin challenged. "Even Laura," Yoon said without hesitation. "Come out. Now. You have 30 seconds. He ended the call. Miho turned to Yoon, anguish written across his face. "What are you doing?" Miho demanded. "He is Laura. My wife is in there. We can't." "Miho," Yoon said gently, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. "You need to trust me. Taemin thinks he's always 10 steps ahead of you. But right now," Yoon smiled. "Right now, I'm 20 steps ahead of him." "What are you talking about?" Miho asked desperately. Instead of answering, Yoon pulled out his own phone and pulled up a video file. He held it out to Miho. "Watch this," Yoon said. "And trust me." His hands still trembling, Miho took the phone and pressed play. The video was brief, less than 30 seconds, but what it showed made tears spring to Miho's eyes. Not tears of grief this time, but tears of pure, overwhelming joy. When the video ended, Miho looked up at Yoon with an expression of wonder and gratitude and love that transcended words. How Miho started. Later, Yoon promised. Right now, we have work to finish. Are you with me? Miho nodded, wiping his eyes. The video had changed everything. Had given him hope and strength and certainty. I'm with you, Miho said. Let's end this. Meanwhile, in the underground chamber, Taemin was growing increasingly agitated. They're bluffing, he muttered, pacing back and forth in front of the monitor. They have to be bluffing. Miho wouldn't risk Laura's life. He wouldn't. But even as he spoke, he could see the helicopter holding position. Could see the guards maintaining their perimeter. No sign of retreat. No indication that Miho was backing down. Maybe we should surrender, Nana said quietly. Maybe? Shut up, Taemin snapped. Just shut up and let me think. He was so focused on the monitors, so consumed by his calculations and contingencies, that he didn't notice what was happening behind him. The secret passage door, the one he'd brought Nana through, had been left slightly ajar in his haste. And in the main penthouse above, Miho's elite guards had found something very interesting. A small mark on the wall. Barely visible. A tiny symbol scratched into the paint with something sharp, probably a hairpin or a piece of jewelry. The guard who found it recognized it immediately as a deliberate marker. Someone had left a clue. Someone had wanted them to find this spot. Here, the guard whispered to his team. The entrance is here. They examined the wall carefully, searching for the mechanism. And there, a slight indentation. A pressure plate disguised as part of the wall's texture. One of the guards pressed it. The wall slid open silently, revealing the dark passage beyond. The guards moved into formation. Weapons raised. Night vision activated. Moving with the silent efficiency of highly trained soldiers. They descended into the darkness, following the passage downward, toward the hidden chamber where their target was hiding. In the chamber, Taemin was still focused on the monitors when he heard a sound behind him. The soft click of weapons being readied. The faint rustle of tactical gear. He spun around, and his blood turned to ice. For a split second, Taemin's mind raced through options. Fight? Flee? Negotiate? Then instinct took over. He grabbed Nana, pulling her in front of him as a human shield. His arm wrapped around her pregnant belly, his other hand pulling a gun from the holster at his back and pressing it to her temple. Get back, Taemin shouted. Get back or I'll kill her. Nana struggled against his grip, her eyes blazing with fury. You bastard, she screamed. You coward. Using a pregnant woman as a shield? Is this what you've become? Shut up, Taemin hissed. Just shut up. But his attention was divided now, split between the guards in front of him and the woman struggling in his arms. It was exactly the opening Nana needed. With all the strength in her body, Nana drove her heel down onto Taemin's instep. At the same moment, she twisted and brought her knee up hard between his legs. The impact was devastating. Taemin's eyes went wide. The gun dropped from his nerveless fingers. His grip on Nana loosened as he doubled over, gasping in agony. Nana didn't hesitate. She shoved him away and ran, sprinting for the guards, one hand protecting her belly as she fled from the man who'd held her captive. Taemin managed to stand, reaching for his gun with shaking hands. But it was already too late. Nana had reached the guards, and they'd pulled her to safety behind their formation. And now Taemin was alone, injured and vulnerable, with a dozen guns pointed at his head. His eyes darted around desperately. Then he stumbled toward the hospital bed where Laura lay unconscious. He grabbed her body, hauling her up as a shield, the 4 lines pulling free from her arms. Stay back, Taemin shouted, his voice high with panic now. Stay back or I'll kill her. I swear to God, I'll kill her. The guards held their positions, weapons trained but not firing. Their orders had been clear: capture Taemin alive if possible. One of the guards, a veteran with gray at his temples and a scar across his cheek, actually laughed. Go ahead, the guard said. Kill her. Do it. I dare you. Taemin stared at him, confused. What? You heard me, the guard continued. Kill her. Shoot her in the head. Prove you're serious. Because right now, I think you're bluffing. I'm not bluffing. Taemin screamed. This is Miho's wife. The most important thing in his life. If I kill her, he'll destroy all of you. He'll wipe out your families. Your friends. Everyone you've ever known. So you better. A phone rang. Not Taemin's phone. One of the guard's phones. The guard answered, listened for a moment, then held it out toward Taemin. It's for you, the guard said with a cruel smile. Your old boss wants a word. Taemin, still holding Laura's body in front of him, stared at the phone with suspicion. But curiosity and ego got the better of him. He gestured for the guard to put it on speaker. Miho? Taemin called out. Hello, Taemin. Miho's voice came through the speaker, surprisingly calm. Are you enjoying your final moments of freedom? I have your wife, Taemin said desperately. I'll kill her. I swear I'll. Go ahead, Miho interrupted. Kill her. Taemin froze. What? You heard me, Miho said, his voice still eerily calm. If you think killing Laura will hurt me, go ahead and try. Pull the trigger. Shoot her. I want to see what happens. You're bluffing, Taemin said. You're trying to call my bluff, but I'm serious. I'll do it. Then do it, Miho challenged. But before you do, maybe you should check exactly who you're pointing that gun at. What are you talking about? Taemin demanded. This is Laura. I can see her. She's right here. Is she? Miho asked. Are you absolutely certain about that? Something in Miho's voice made Taemin's blood run cold. A certainty. A confidence that shouldn't be there. But Taemin refused to be manipulated. Refused to fall for whatever trick this was. You're trying to confuse me, Taemin snarled. But it won't work. This is Laura. And I'm going to. He pressed the gun to the head of the woman he held and pulled the trigger. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Taemin expected blood. Expected the spray of gore and the collapse of a body. Instead, there was no blood. Taemin stared at the woman's head in confusion. There was a bullet hole where he'd shot her. He could see it clearly. But no blood came out. No brain matter. It was just different colors of wire. What? Taemin breathed. He released his grip on the woman's body slightly, turning her head to see the wound more clearly. And that's when he saw it. The telltale glint of metal beneath the silicone skin. The mechanical components visible through the bullet hole. The artificial nature of what he'd been holding. It wasn't a person, but a robot. An incredibly sophisticated, lifelike robot designed to look exactly like Laura. To fool anyone who didn't look too closely. No, Taemin whispered. No, that's impossible. I had her. I saved her from the hospital. I've been keeping her here for months. This is. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. Knew he'd been outmaneuvered. The guards didn't give him time to process his mistake. 2 shots rang out in quick succession. Both hit Taemin's right leg. They shot him in such a way that his legs would be weak but not entirely useless. Taemin screamed and collapsed, the gun flying from his hand, the robot's body falling beside him. Within seconds, the guards were on him. Hands pinning him down. Zip ties securing his wrists behind his back. More restraints around his ankles. Lee Taemin, the police officer who was among Miho's guards, said formally, "You're under arrest for attempted murder, kidnapping, terrorism, and about 30 other charges that are going to put you away for the rest of your natural life. You have the right to remain silent." But Taemin wasn't listening to the Miranda rights being read to him. He was staring at the robot that lay beside him on the ground, its beautiful features frozen in a peaceful expression, the bullet hole in its temple revealing the circuitry beneath. He'd been played. Completely and utterly played. The guards hauled Taemin to his feet despite his wounded leg. He screamed in pain, but they showed no mercy as they dragged him through the secret passage, up into the penthouse, and finally out into the morning sunlight. Outside, a crowd had gathered. News cameras. Reporters. Curious onlookers who'd been drawn by the sound of helicopters and gunfire. And standing at the center of it all, flanked by his elite guards, was Miho. As the guards dragged Taemin out of the building, his hands cuffed behind his back, his leg bleeding and his face twisted with pain and rage, he caught sight of Minho. Their eyes met. And Taemin smiled. It was a terrible smile. Broken and bitter and full of spite. "You haven't won," Taemin called out, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "Laura wasn't dead before, but she is now. I made sure of it. Whatever you think you know, whatever game you think you've won, I had the last laugh. Your wife is dead, Minho. Dead and gone. And you'll never." "Hello, Taemin." The voice came from behind Minho. Soft and feminine and achingly familiar. Taemin's words died in his throat. His smile froze on his face. And then Yoon Sung-ho stepped aside, and everyone could see who'd spoken. Laura emerged from behind Minho like a vision. She wore an elegant green dress that complemented her beautiful dark brown skin perfectly. Her long hair was styled in loose waves that cascaded over her shoulders. She looked healthy, strong, and radiant. She looked nothing like someone who'd been at death's door months ago. "Remember me?" Laura asked, her voice clear and steady. "The woman you tried to kill? The woman you shot? The woman you thought you'd destroyed?" Taemin's eyes went wide with shock, then disbelief, then absolute horror as the full scope of his failure became clear. Yoon stepped forward, his expression one of cold satisfaction. "Did you really think I would leave her in your custody?" Yoon asked. He gestured to Laura. "I rescued her months ago. Right after you thought you'd secured her. While you were busy playing your little games, I was having her treated by the best doctors money could buy. Underground hospitals. Places you'd never think to look at." Yoon's smile was sharp as a knife. "And that robot you were keeping? That perfect replica? I made sure it was so lifelike, so convincing, that you never suspected. You monitored it. You checked its vital signs. You believed it was Laura. All while the real Laura was safe and healing and preparing for this moment." He leaned in close to Taemin, his voice dropping to a whisper that still carried in the silent courtyard. "You're going to rot in prison, Taemin. And I'm going to make sure you suffer every single moment until your last breath. That's my promise to you." Taemin opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He simply stared at Laura, at the woman who should be dead, but was standing there alive and beautiful and free. All his plans, all his revenge, all the pain he'd inflicted and the lives he'd destroyed. The guard hauled him away toward the waiting police vehicles. As they went, Taemin screamed, wordless sounds of rage and anguish and the breaking of a mind that couldn't accept defeat. When he was finally loaded into the armored van and the doors closed on his screams, silence fell over the courtyard. And then Minho moved. He'd been standing frozen since Laura appeared. Frozen with shock and joy and disbelief and overwhelming emotion. Now his legs carried him forward, his stride increasing until he was nearly running, until he reached Laura and pulled her into his arms with enough force to lift her off her feet. "Laura," he whispered against her hair. "Laura, oh God, Laura." He kissed her desperately and hungrily, pouring months of grief and loss and longing into that kiss. Laura kissed him back with equal intensity, her arms wrapped around his neck, tears streaming down both their faces. They stood there for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a few minutes, holding each other, kissing each other, reconnecting after coming so close to losing everything. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless and crying, and smiling through their tears, Minho cupped Laura's face in his hands. "I thought you were dead," he whispered. "I mourned you. I grieved for you. And all this time, I'm here," Laura interrupted gently. "I'm alive. I'm safe. And I'm never leaving you again. I promise." Minho kissed her again, softer this time, tender and reverent and full of love. Around them, the guards maintained their professional composure, but more than a few were wiping their eyes. Even hardened soldiers could be moved by a love story this powerful. Yoon watched the reunion with satisfaction and a touch of bittersweet emotion. He was happy for his friend, thrilled that Laura was alive and safe. But it also reminded him of what he'd lost. The woman who'd saved his life. The angel who'd disappeared before he could tell her how he felt. He turned to leave, to give Minho and Laura privacy. As he took a step forward, he froze. The woman he had fallen in love with was right across to him. After all these years. Nana's eyes went wide with recognition and shock. She took a step back, clearly overwhelmed. But Yoon didn't give her time to run. In 3 long strides, he closed the distance between them and pulled her into his arms. "It's you," he whispered against her hair. Nana was trembling in his embrace, tears flowing freely down her face. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry I left you. I was scared. I didn't know if you'd want me. I didn't think I was good enough. I was so stupid and so scared. Please forgive me." "Forgive you?" Yoon pulled back just enough to look at her face. "Forgive you? Nana, you saved my life. You gave me a reason to keep fighting, to keep living. I've spent 5 years trying to find you. 5 years hoping I'd get a chance to tell you." He stopped, swallowing hard. "Tell me what?" Nana asked softly. "That I love you," Yoon said simply. "I've loved you since the very day I met you. I loved you while you nursed me back to health. I loved you when you disappeared. And I've loved you every day since, even when I thought I'd never see you again." Nana's tears came harder now, but they were tears of joy mixed with regret and relief. "I love you too," she whispered. "I always have. But I was afraid of rejection, so I moved on, but I was never truly happy. Nana, please marry me." Yoon said without hesitation. "Marry you? But..." Nana stared at her stomach. "I don't care whose child it is biologically," Yoon said firmly. If you'll give me a chance, I'll raise that baby as my own. I'll be the father he or she deserves. And I'll spend the rest of my life making you happy." More tears streamed down Nana's face. But she was smiling now, a brilliant smile that lit up her entire face. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." They kissed then, right there in the courtyard, surrounded by guards and reporters and witnesses. And from the sidelines, Minho and Laura watched with smiles of their own. "Our friends found their happy ending," Laura murmured, leaning against Minho's side. "They deserve it," Minho said. "After everything they've been through. Everything we've all been through." "So what happens now?" Laura asked. "What do we do?" Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Now we go home and start over, to build the life we should have had before Taemin tried to destroy everything." He looked down at her, his expression serious. "I want to leave the underworld completely, Laura. No more criminal enterprises. No more violence. I want to be a legitimate businessman. A husband. A father. I want Hunnel to grow up with both his parents, safe, happy and free." Laura's smile was radiant. "Then that's what we'll do together." They walked toward the waiting car, hand in hand, ready to begin their new life. Later that evening, at Minho's underground basement headquarters, the elite guards stood in formation as Minho addressed them for what might be the last time. He stood on the raised platform at the center of the command room, Laura by his side, Yoon standing supportively behind them. "I brought you all here today because I need to tell you something important," Minho began. "This might be the last time you see me. At least, the last time you see me in this context. In this role." The guards remained silent, but Minho could see the questions in their eyes. "I'm stepping down," Minho said simply. "I'm leaving the underworld. I have a family now, a wife and a son who need their father. And I can't be the father they deserve while I'm running a criminal organization." He paused, letting that sink in. "Shadow," Minho called out. The head of security stepped forward, his scarred face impassive. "You're the new boss," Minho said. "Effective immediately. You'll run the organization. Make the decisions. Handle the operations." Shadow blinked, clearly shocked. "Sir, You've been loyal to me for 15 years, Minho interrupted. "You've never failed. You're the only person I trust with this responsibility." He turned to another figure in the crowd. "Choi, you're second in command. You'll support Shadow and make sure the transition is smooth." Choi saluted sharply. "Yes, sir. It will be my honor." Minho looked around at all the faces, men who'd followed him through battles and blood, who'd risked their lives for his cause. "I'm not abandoning you," Minho said. "If you need me, truly need me, I'll be there. But my days of active leadership are over. It's time for new blood. New direction." He stepped down from the platform and began moving through the ranks, shaking hands and accepting salutes. When he reached Shadow and Choi, he did something he'd never done before. He hugged them. Both men stiffened in shock. In all the years they'd worked for Minho, he'd never shown this kind of physical affection. He'd been professional, respectful, fair, but never warm. Laura had changed that. Had softened him. Had reminded him that strength didn't have to mean emotional distance. "Thank you," Minho said quietly. "For everything. For your loyalty. For saving Laura. For being brothers when I needed you most." Shadow's voice was rough with emotion when he spoke. "It was our honor, boss. Always." As Minho, Laura, and Yoon left the basement for the last time, the guards saluted in unison. It was the end of an era. And the beginning of something new. At the villa. When the car pulled up to the villa, Minho turned to Laura. "Wait here," he said. "I want to surprise them." Laura smiled and nodded. She understood. Hanul and Mrs. Yuchon thought she was dead. The shock of seeing her again needed to be managed carefully. Minho and Yoon entered the villa together. The first thing Minho heard was crying. He followed the sound to the living room and froze. Mrs. Yuchon was there, sitting on the sofa, tissues in her hand, her face red and blotchy from crying. And standing in front of her, looking completely distraught, was a woman Minho hadn't seen in months. Laura's mother. She was an older version of Laura, same beautiful brown skin, same elegant features, but with silver threads in her dark hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of a life well lived. Right now, those eyes were filled with grief and rage. When she saw Minho, something in her snapped. She lunged at him, her hands reaching for his throat, her face twisted with maternal fury. "Where's my daughter?" she screamed. "Where's Laura? What did you do to her? You promised to protect her. You promised." Yoon quickly intervened, gently but firmly restraining the grieving mother before she could actually harm Minho. "Please, madam," Yoon said calmly. "Please. Let Minho explain." "Explain what?" Laura's mother sobbed. "That my baby is dead? That she's gone? That I'll never see her again." "She's not dead," Minho said quietly. Laura's mother froze. Her tear-filled eyes locked on Minho's face. "What did you say?" "Laura is alive," Minho said, his voice stronger now. "She's safe. And she's here." Mrs. Yuchon gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. Laura's mother simply stared, not daring to hope, not daring to believe. "She's outside," Minho continued. "In the car. I wanted to tell you first. To prepare you. But she's really here. She's really alive." For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Minho turned toward the door and called out, "Laura. Come in." The front door opened. And Laura stepped through, wearing that same beautiful green elegant gown, her face glowing with happiness and health. "Mama," she said softly. Laura's mother let out a sound that was part sob, part scream of joy. Her legs carried her forward of their own accord, closing the distance between them at a run. Mother and daughter collided in an embrace so fierce, so desperate, so full of love and relief that everyone watching felt tears spring to their eyes. "My baby," Laura's mother sobbed. "My baby, my baby, my baby." "I'm here, Mama," Laura whispered. "I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm home." They held each other and cried, making up for months of lost time and grief and fear. Mrs. Yuchon approached more slowly, her weathered face streaming with tears. When Laura opened one arm to include her, the elderly nanny joined the embrace, the three women holding each other in a moment of pure joy. "Mommy?" The small voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Hanul standing there, having just arrived home from school. He was holding his backpack, his small face confused as he looked at the crying adults. Then his eyes landed on Laura. For a moment, he just stared, processing, trying to understand if what he was seeing was real. Then understanding dawned, and his small face lit up with pure, incandescent joy. "Mommy!" Hanul screamed, dropping his backpack and running as fast as his little legs could carry him. Laura broke away from her mother and Mrs. Yuchon, dropping to her knees just in time to catch her son as he launched himself into her arms. "Baby," Laura sobbed, holding him tight. "My sweet baby. I missed you so much. So much. I missed you too, Mommy." Hanul cried, his small arms wrapped around her neck in a death grip, as if he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. They said you were traveling, but you were gone for so long and I was so scared and Show baby, Laura soothed. I'm here now. I'm here and I'm never leaving again. I promise. They held each other, mother and son reunited after coming so close to permanent separation. Minho watched from the doorway, his throat tight with emotion. His family was whole again. And then he noticed movement at the edge of the courtyard. Nana arrived with a smile after seeing Hanul hugging Laura. She saw Yoon and her heart warmed up again. As Yoon saw her, he kissed her forehead and her belly as well. Laura and Minho, who were watching from the corner, were happy for them. They've been through hell, Laura murmured to Minho. They deserve this happiness. We all do, Minho agreed, pulling his wife close. After everything we've been through, we all deserve peace. They are together and Yoon went inside a furnished bedroom with Nana to spend time with her. As they talked, it led to a romantic moment. Just when Yoon wanted to kiss Nana, they heard the sound of applause. They broke apart to find Minho, Laura, Mrs. Yuchon, and Laura's mother all standing in the doorway, having clearly been eavesdropping. About time, Minho said with a grin. I was starting to think you'd never be a man. Everyone laughed. The tension, the fear, the pain of recent months, it all seemed to melt away in that moment of shared joy. 3 days later, at the courthouse. The courtroom was packed for Taemin's sentencing hearing. Minho, Laura, Yoon, and Nana sat in the gallery, watching as the judge reviewed the list of charges. Lee Taemin, the judge said, his voice grave. You have been found guilty of attempted murder, kidnapping, terrorism, extortion, and numerous other charges. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Do you have anything to say before sentencing? Taemin stood, his leg still bandaged from the gunshot wound, his hands cuffed in front of him. He looked across the courtroom at Nana, at Laura, at Minho. This isn't justice, he said quietly. This is revenge. You all act like you're better than me. Like you're righteous. But you're not. Minho built an empire on blood and violence. He destroyed lives without remorse. And when someone finally did to him what he'd been doing to others for years, when I made him feel the pain he'd inflicted on countless people, suddenly I'm the monster. His voice rose. My mother died because of him. He blacklisted her. He destroyed her chance at treatment. And when I came to him begging for mercy, for basic human compassion, he refused to help me. That's enough, the judge said sternly. But Taemin wasn't done. You want to sentence me? Fine. Lock me up. But know this, every action I took, every decision I made, was because of what Minho did to me. He created me. He made me into this. And if there's any justice in this world, he should be sitting here beside me, facing the same charges. The courtroom was silent. Then the judge spoke, his voice cold. Mr. Lee, I understand you've experienced trauma and loss. I understand you believe your actions were justified. But the law is clear. Revenge is not justice. Violence is not acceptable, no matter the provocation. You shot 2 people. You kidnapped others. You terrorized an entire family. And you did it all in the name of personal vengeance. The judge looked down at his papers. Lee Taemin, I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment with hard labor. You will serve your time in a maximum security facility. You will be eligible for parole in 40 years. May God have mercy on your soul. The gavel fell. Guards moved to escort Taemin from the courtroom. As he passed by the gallery where Minho's group sat, Taemin's eyes met Nana's. There was such pain there. Such betrayal. Such broken dreams. I loved you, Taemin said quietly. Despite everything. I loved you. Nana stared at him with disgust. My greatest regret was knowing you. You have messed up my life, Taemin, but I forgive you. Taemin opened his mouth to respond, but the guards pulled him away. Just before he reached the door, Yoon stood and moved to intercept him. He leaned in close and whispered in Taemin's ear, words too quiet for anyone else to hear. I'm not done with you yet. This is just the beginning. Then, louder, so Nana and the others could hear, oh, and by the way, I'm marrying Nana in 3 days. Just thought you should know. Sleep well thinking about that. Taemin's face contorted with rage. He lunged forward, trying to attack Yoon despite his restraints. But the guards held him back, dragging him forcibly from the courtroom as he screamed curses and threats. Yoon returned to his seat, his expression satisfied. Was that necessary? Laura asked with a helpless smile. Absolutely, Yoon said without remorse. He deserves every ounce of pain he feels. After what he did to all of us, to you especially, he's getting off easy with just prison time. Minho placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. Let it go. He's going to rot in prison. That's punishment enough. Maybe, Yoon said. But I want him to know that while he's suffering in a cell, we're all living happy lives. Nana especially. That's the ultimate revenge, living well while he withers away. 3 days later. The wedding was small but beautiful. Held in the garden of Minho's villa, with only close family and friends in attendance. Nana stood in front of the full-length mirror in the guest bedroom, examining her reflection. The wedding dress had been chosen carefully elegant white lace that accommodated her pregnant belly beautifully. Her hair was styled in soft waves. Her makeup was subtle but glowing. Laura stood beside her, adjusting the veil with gentle hands. You look beautiful, Laura said warmly. Thank you, Nana said softly. For everything. For becoming my friend. I don't deserve. Stop, Laura interrupted gently. You made mistakes. But you also helped save my life by leaving those clues for Minho's guards. You turned against Taemin when it mattered most. That takes courage. She smiled. Besides, Yoon loves you. And Yoon is family. Which means you're family now too. The door opened and Mrs. Yuchon entered, followed by another woman. Mrs. Young, whose daughter Taemin kidnapped to force cooperation. She was here today as a guest, having been invited after everything was explained to her. Oh my dear, Mrs. Young breathed, seeing Nana in her wedding dress. You look absolutely radiant. She approached Nana with tears in her eyes. I'm so glad you found happiness. After everything you've been through. Everything we've all been through. How's your daughter? Nana asked gently. She's doing much better, Mrs. Young said. The therapy is helping. She's starting to smile again. I'm so sorry, Nana said. For my pardon. No, Mrs. Young said firmly. You were a victim too. Manipulated and controlled by a man who'd lost himself to revenge. You're not responsible for Taemin's choices. She pulled out a small box. I wanted to give you this. For your wedding day. Inside the box was a delicate necklace, a simple gold chain with a small pendant shaped like a heart. It was my mother's, Mrs. Young explained. And her mother's before that. I want you to have it. To symbolize new beginnings, new family, and new love. Nana's eyes filled with tears. I can't accept. You can and you will, Mrs. Young said, fastening the necklace around Nana's neck. You're like family now. Nana's eyes went wide. She hugged Mrs. Young tightly. Laura and Mrs. Yuchon watched with warm smiles. Finally, Mrs. Yuchon cleared her throat gently. As beautiful as this is, we have a wedding to get to. The groom is waiting. Nana wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. The garden ceremony was perfect. White chairs arranged in neat rows. Flower arrangements in soft pastels. String lights hung from the trees, ready to twinkle when evening fell. Laura invited Jisoo and Minji to the wedding. The two of them were engaged already. And at the altar, Yoon waited. He was dressed in a sharp black tuxedo, his hair styled back, his expression one of barely controlled emotion. When the music started and Nana appeared at the end of the aisle, Yoon's eyes filled with tears. She was so beautiful and radiant. Nana walked slowly down the aisle, one hand supporting her pregnant belly, the other clutching a bouquet of white roses. When she reached Yoon, he took her hand and whispered, "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Even with this? Nana asked, gesturing to her belly with a wry smile. Especially with that, Yoon said firmly. You're carrying our child. That makes you even more beautiful to me. The ceremony was short but meaningful. Traditional vows were exchanged. Rings were placed on fingers. And when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Yoon pulled Nana close and kissed her with all the passion and love he'd been holding back for 5 years. The small gathering erupted in applause and cheers. Honol, sitting in the front row between Laura and Minho, clapped his little hands and shouted, "Yay! Uncle Yoon got married." Everyone laughed. As Yoon and Nana walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, Minho leaned over to whisper in Laura's ear, "Think we'll have another baby soon?" Laura turned to him with a mischievous smile. "Don't be naughty, Minho. We're having another baby," he whispered. "A brother or sister for Hanul." "Then you have to work hard for it," Laura said with a smile. They sat there in their embrace, watching Yoon and Nana celebrate their new marriage and knowing that their own love story was entering a new chapter. That night, after the wedding reception, Yoon and Nana were flew to Jeju Island, somewhere peaceful and beautiful for their honeymoon. Hanul had already been bundled off for his own vacation. Mrs. Yuchan, who'd been planning this for weeks, was taking him to her home village for a week of countryside adventures and grandmother spoiling. "You be good for Mrs. Yuchan," Laura told her son as she hugged him goodbye. "I will, Mommy," Hanul promised. "And when I come back, you and Daddy have to spoil me once more." Laura's eyes went wide. Minho laughed and ruffled his son's hair. "Yes, we will. And you're going to be the best big brother in the world very soon." After Hanul and Mrs. Yuchan left, and after Yoon and Nana departed for the airport, Minho and Laura finally found themselves alone. For the first time in months, they stood in the master bedroom of the villa, just looking at each other. "I can't believe we're here," Laura said softly. "After everything we went through, everything we almost lost, we're actually here together." "I know," Minho said, moving closer. "There were so many times I thought I'd lost you forever. When they told me you were dead. When I couldn't remember our life together. When I saw you in that video call and thought Taemin had you captive. Every time I thought my world was ending." He cupped her face in his hands. "But you're here. You're alive. And I'm never letting you go again. Promise?" Laura asked, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Promise," Minho confirmed. They came together in a kiss that was both gentle and desperate, tender and passionate. A kiss that spoke of loss and reunion, of fear and hope, of everything they'd been through and everything they'd survived. Minho's hands moved to the zipper of Laura's dress, sliding it down slowly, reverently. "Are you sure?" he whispered against her lips. "You've been through so much." "If you're not ready." "I'm ready," Laura assured him. "I've missed you and I need you right now. I need to remember what it feels like to be loved without fear. To be touched without pain. To be alive without constantly looking over my shoulder." She helped him remove her dress, then began unbuttoning his shirt with trembling fingers. "Make love to me," Laura whispered. "Help me forget the nightmare. Help me remember why I fought so hard to survive. To come back to you." Minho's answer was to lift her gently and carry her to the bed. They made love slowly, reconnecting on every level, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And then they made love again. And again. Through the night and into the early morning. Each time was different. Sometimes desperate and passionate. Sometimes slow and sweet. But always with love. Always with gratitude for this second chance they'd been given. When dawn finally broke and they lay tangled together in the sheets, both exhausted and sated, Laura traced patterns on Minho's chest with her fingertips. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" Minho asked sleepily. "For fighting for me. For never giving up. For building a life worth coming back to." Minho pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I'd fight through hell itself for you," he said simply. "You and Hanul. You're my entire world, Laura. My reason for everything." They drifted off to sleep in each other's arms, safe and loved and finally at peace. 3 months later, Nana gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The delivery was smooth, and both mother and baby were doing well. Yoon was present for every moment, holding Nana's hand, coaching her through contractions, and crying tears of joy when their son entered the world. "He's as handsome as his father," Yoon whispered, holding the tiny bundle carefully. "Absolutely perfect." "What should we name him?" Nana asked, exhausted but glowing. Yoon thought for a moment. Then he said Minjun. "It means clever and handsome, because he's going to be both, just like his father." Nana laughed, even though it hurt. "That's perfect." When Minho, Laura, and Hanol came to visit at the hospital, Hanol was fascinated by the tiny baby. "He's so small," Hanol exclaimed. "Is my new sister gonna be this small too?" "Even smaller," Laura confirmed, placing a hand on her growing belly. "She is 2 months pregnant now." "Wow," Hanol breathed. "I'm gonna be the best big brother ever." As the adults chatted and cooed over baby Minjun, Laura leaned against Minho contentedly. "This is what happiness looks like," she murmured. "All of us together, safe and healthy. Building our families." "It is," Minho agreed. "And I'm going to make sure it stays this way. No more danger. No more threats. Just peace." He pulled out his phone and pulled up a photo. "I had this made. For all of us." It was a family portrait, professionally done, with everyone included. Minho, Laura, and Hanol in the center. Yoon and Nana on one side. Mrs. Yuchon and Mrs. Young on the other. "Our family," Minho said simply. "Not connected by blood, but by love and by survival." Laura's eyes filled with tears. "It's beautiful." "You're beautiful," Minho corrected, kissing her temple. "And I'm the luckiest man alive." 7 months later, Laura gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Jiwoo, which means wisdom and intelligence. Hanol was completely smitten with his baby sister, insisting on helping with everything from diaper changes to bottle feedings. "I'm the best big brother," Hanol would declare proudly. "Just like I promised." The villa was filled with laughter and life. Baby giggles and toddler energy. Family dinners and game nights. Minho had successfully transitioned to completely legitimate business operations. No more underground dealings. No more criminal enterprises. Just a regular businessman. A husband and a father. And he was happier than he'd ever been. One evening, as Minho sat on the porch watching the sunset, Laura joined him with baby Jiwoo in her arms. "What are you thinking about?" Laura asked, settling beside him. "How different everything is," Minho said quietly. "A year ago, I thought I'd lost you. I thought my world had ended. And now..." He gestured to the happy scene inside the house, Hanol playing with his toys, Mrs. Yuchon preparing dinner, the sounds of a home filled with love. "Now we have everything," Laura finished. "Everything we almost lost. Everything we fought for." "Yes," Minho agreed. He took Laura's free hand in his. "I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. Thank you. For fighting to survive. For not giving up when it would have been so easy. For coming back to us." "Where else would I go?" Laura asked with a soft smile. "You're my home, Minho. You and our children. This life we've built. I'd fight through anything to get back to it." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. And in that moment, everything was perfect. Meanwhile, in prison, Lee Taemin sat in his cell, staring at the concrete wall. 9 months into his life sentence, and he was already going mad with boredom and regret. He'd lost everything. His freedom. His love. His chance at revenge. And for what? His mother was still dead. His pain was still there. All he'd accomplished was destroying his own life along with trying to destroy Minho's. A guard approached his cell. "You have a visitor." Taemin looked up, surprised. He hadn't had a visitor since his sentencing. Who could possibly? But when he was led to the visitor's room and saw who was waiting, his blood ran cold. Yoon Sung-ho sat on the other side of the glass partition, his expression pleasant but his eyes full of dark promise. Taemin picked up the phone slowly. "What do you want?" "Just checking in," Yoon said casually. "Making sure you're comfortable. That prison life is treating you well." "Go to hell," Taemin spat. "Already been there," Yoon replied cheerfully. "And came back. Unlike you, who's going to rot in this place until you're gone forever." He leaned forward, his smile turning cruel. "I wanted you to know Nana and I are very happy. Our son is healthy and beautiful. And in a few years, we're planning to have another child." Taemin's hands clenched on the phone. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to suffer," Yoon said simply. "The way you made Minho suffer. The way you made Laura suffer. The way you made all of us suffer. I want you to lie in your cell every night thinking about what you lost and what you destroyed." He stood to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. I've made arrangements with some of the guards here. You're going to have a very difficult time in prison. Other prisoners will make your life a living hell. Yoon's smile was absolutely terrifying. I told you this was just the beginning. Welcome to the rest of your life, Taemin. Enjoy. He hung up the phone and walked away, leaving Taemin staring after him in horror. Back at the villa that same evening. As night fell and the children were put to bed, Minho and Laura sat together in their bedroom. Yoon went to visit Taemin today, Minho said quietly. Laura looked up from the book she was reading. I know. Do you think that was wise? Probably not, Minho admitted. But I understand why he did it. Taemin destroyed so much. Caused so much pain. Yoon wants him to pay for it. Not just with prison time, but with psychological torture. Do you think Taemin will ever find redemption? Laura asked. Or ever understand what he did wrong? I don't know, Minho said honestly. Part of me hopes he does. That somewhere in that cell, he'll realize that revenge didn't bring him peace. That all it did was destroy more lives, including his own. He pulled Laura close. But that's not our concern anymore. Our concern is this, he gestured to their home, their sleeping children, their life together. Building something beautiful from the ashes of what was almost destroyed. We have built something beautiful, Laura agreed. And we're going to protect it. No matter what. Always, Minho promised. They fell asleep that night wrapped in each other's arms, secure in their love and their family and their future. Outside, the stars shone brightly. The world kept turning. And in the villa, a family that had survived the impossible continued to thrive. Because sometimes, love really does conquer all. Sometimes, the good guys do win. And sometimes, happy endings are possible, even after the darkest nightmares. Meanwhile, Kim Park was released the same day that Taemin was captured. Laura and Minho apologized to him and his mother. And they accepted their apology. Minho compensated Kim Park by making him a manager in one of his legal company. The end. Thank you for following Minho and Laura on this journey. It means a lot to me. Remember to subscribe and support the channel so we can bring you more stories like this one. Your support means everything. Until next time.